Well, hello everybody. Looks like we're live. Hello, George. What's up?
Hey, or Big Blue or
Well,
Blue. I guess I should separate that from Big Blue. Big Blue is a machine. You're not.
yeah, right. Yeah. What are you up to?
Oh, just still trying to recover on this COVID thing. I'm doing a little bit better, but I still have a lot of upper chest congestion. And today I was having some pretty severe coughing bouts, irritated throat, but life moves on slowly.
Yep, that it does.
Had some discussions, private discussions earlier with I Can Science That, and talked a little bit about his interaction with Bev and going forward.
Hello, Judy
Hello.
Bassett.
Hello,
How are you today?
just fine today.
Hey, see Rob Parks and Clive Wells out in the YouTube chat. Hello, guys. Jump right on in if you want to. Thought we'd just continue maybe some of the conversations we were having yesterday. That was fun, or at least I was enjoying it. And there's IB Hunter. Hello, IB.
At work, so I can't chat much. I just
Yeah.
listen.
Ah, that's all good. Yeah, since this was very impromptu, we'll just wait around for a bit and see who shows up. I'm sure we'll have a few wander in.
We're still discussing water levels.
I think we really triggered some people yesterday with that. They seem to be over at Bev's Try Thinking stream right now, rubbing shit in their hair and screaming, "Oh dear." I don't understand why they have such a hard time understanding it. I really don't. Seems pretty simple to me, but they've been picking on every tiny little thing anybody says.
Well, water level is very simple. I mean, it just will do the same thing as the surface of any body of water. But of course, the rub is Evan and his minions don't want to accept that large bodies of water have their surface curve, particularly the oceans wrapping themselves around the spherical mass of the earth.
Yeah, that
You don't get water level.
that messes with their religious beliefs. Clearly, uh, I think that's part of it anyway. But um, it seems that I don't know what your feelings are, George, but it just seems like they don't believe they have any chance uh, of winning anything without lying and misrepresenting what we say. Have you noticed that?
Well, yes, of course. And that's why I posted earlier. I just think we ought to walk away from this stuff and ignore Bev and let them all wallow in their stupidity. I mean,
Yeah, that's
it's
probably.
simple concepts. This whole thing about, surface of water, large bodies of water wrapping themselves around the massive body of the earth. I mean, that's pretty obvious stuff. I mean, you look at the blue marble photo, there it is. You know, now if you want to deny those photographs and deny the physics associated with gravity and how it holds water to the earth and the atmosphere to the earth, well, so be it. I mean, what can we do? I mean, there's nowhere to go after that. If they're not going to accept that, there's just going to be this large rift, and both sides are just going to be endlessly taking shots at one another. And there's no purpose to it. I mean, it's the same discussions that have been going on from 2 years ago. No progress has been made. So
Yeah, at least 2 years.
what's the purpose?
Well, it's the same set of discussions that have been going on since I started doing this, which was 3 years ago, more than 3 now.
Yeah, we could have taped all the discussions 2-3 years ago and just play them back now, and it'd be almost verbatim of what we're hearing coming out live out of Bev's channel. So
Yeah, there you go. Sometimes I think we just ought to number the arguments,
yeah,
Hmm.
and it could really increase the efficiency.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go number 5. You number
No,
4.
17.
No, 7.
No, that's a 17. No, 17. Yeah, that would be a lot more efficient, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Because the answers are always the same. The arguments are always the same. The answers are always the same. They don't listen. That's
Don't you
just the
get
way it
tired
works.
of talking to a brick wall?
Yeah, exactly like talking to a brick wall or a bucket of fish bait.
I think it actually has changed slightly. I mean, it's very, very slow change, but whenever back 6, 7 years ago, if you brought up celestial navigation,
We lost you, IB.
it took 7 years or 5 years for them to figure out what ground position is of a star and how that works, but it's definitely different than it was 6 years ago. So there is some progress. It's exceedingly little.
Yeah. Well, the one thing there have been some changes. Yeah, I'll agree with that. For instance, a couple of years ago, even a year ago, you could find flat Earth plastered all over Try Thinking's channel. Today he runs from that like it's a goblin of some sort. They're terrified of admitting that they're flat earthers anymore because they understand now. They've begun to, at least they have begun understanding the stigma attached to saying, I think the earth is flat. I don't believe the oceans curve. They realize that really is a big disadvantage. You don't dare let people know that that's what you think, not anywhere outside this arena.
Yeah, but the thing is they won't answer the question as to what shape do you think the earth is in. Well, if you don't think the earth is a sphere, then you must have some idea of its shape in order to come to that conclusion. So tell me what it is.
Yeah, if it's not a sphere, what the hell is it? That's a good question.
But you get the response, well, I don't know what shape it is, but I know it's not a sphere. Well, how do you know it's not a sphere then? You must have some idea what the shape is to come to that conclusion.
You guys hear my dog barking in the background?
Yeah, I think he's agreeing with you.
Yeah. I think he caught a glimpse of Bev on the screen or something. I'm not sure. Come on over, Bev. I got somebody who wants to meet you.
Don't let him in the house. He's liable to toss his cookies.
Oh dear.
Joker would be like, oh, cool, a snack.
I haven't eaten for at least 5 minutes.
No, he'd probably take a bite and they go, pooey, pooey.
Yeah, I had to laugh sitting there listening to Bev mocking me. That's funny. Listening to a guy with that accent trying to mock a guy with a southern accent. Hello.
Yeah, pot and kettle, eh?
I I can't even begin to try to mock Bev. I don't know how to put a K on the end of every fucking word I say.
Bet. I'm not going to do it. Bollocks to it. not tonight.
Oh god.
It really is. I mean, why do so many of these flat Earth characters have the most irritating voices? And his is worse than nails down the blackboard. You know.
Oh yeah. I agree.
But hey, we can say whatever we like because tomorrow night he will be going through what we say tonight because that's exactly what he's doing now.
Oh, I know, of course.
And like, I just listened to a bit of it, and I just sit there and go, "No, Bev, that's not what I said. Why are you lying about what I just said again? It's quite a skill he's got, completely useless skill."
Well, the funny part is he has to sit through 3 hours of it to listen to see what we did say, and then he's got to make notes and write down all the little places he wants to put breaks and all the times he wants to back up and how many times he wants to back up and repeat and replay.
The funniest thing was that I just dropped in for a couple of minutes to listen to it, and he started having a go at Dan the Waterman because Dan the Waterman had been in here last night, and so Bev sees somebody who was in your chat last night, and now he's in the side chat at Bev's show, and I'm thinking, you don't know who Dan the Waterman is, do you? Because he's automatically presumed that he must be a Glober. Because he was allowed to sit in your chat, and you didn't boot him out, so he must be a Glober. And it's like, no, mate, you've not heard of this idiot, have you? And he was having a go at him, and that's when I gave up because it's just like, oh dear.
Poor Dan.
I know. Dan's making snarky comments about Globers, and Bev's just saw that Dan was there, and Dan was in your stream last night. Put 2 and 2 together and got 47.
As usual.
As usual. Oh, it did make me laugh. Poor old boy. I could almost. Well, no, I can't feel sorry for Bev at all. It's just I've tried and it's quite impossible.
No, they're sad people. They really are. And that last appearance with ICST was just ridiculous. And they asked me with a straight face why I won't come in their on their show.
Yeah.
Listen to it, fellas.
Yeah. Perfect example of why you don't want to. Yeah.
Why would I ever go into that place? Why does anybody go there? I don't have any idea. It makes no sense to me, but anyway. Yeah, they're trying to make fun of me for talking about what I used to do for a living. Maybe it is strange to them that somebody actually had a real job. As far as I can tell, Bev's never had one. Maybe that's what perplexes them. Actually did get up for 45 years and go to work in the morning.
Yeah.
5 days a week, sometimes 6, and occasionally 7.
Yep. Yes, there's been a few Sundays I've worked in over the past year.
Yeah.
Under protest, obviously. You want me to do what?
Yeah, I made
on a Sunday.
I made a mistake of saying electrostatic precipitator, and Bev's been making fun of that. Judy, I bet you've seen one of those, haven't you?
I've been inside a few.
There you go.
That wasn't my specialty, but I've been inside of them doing some inspection of the wrappers.
Yep. Yeah, I made a mistake of trying to put it in common terms. And I said, imagine a large house, and now imagine 10 of those. Okay, that's the sort of scale that we're talking about. But let's give them some dimensions. The biggest one that I ever worked in around or had a part in designing was one for American Electric Power at the Zimmer station. I think you've been there before, Judy.
Well, not during an outage, but yeah, that's a huge plant.
Yeah, and that precipitator was about 270 feet in width. In length, it was close to 90 feet, and in height, it was something like 75 feet. So think about those dimensions. The roof of the damn thing was roughly not a whole lot smaller than an American football field. And from the ground to the roof elevation was over 100 feet. Yeah, it's rather large. And when I talked about collecting plates, those things had 48-foot plates, I believe. Might have been 50. But there were thousands and thousands of them in there, 12-inch centers. You know what they look like. You know what it looks like in there, Judy.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole lot of those things. It's not just one or two. It's thousands of them. And those things were worth a fair amount of money too. I think, in fact, there's farmers that's put,
I'll just Google them because I'm thinking I know what you're on about, but I was just trying to picture it. So
well, good.
yeah, I
We'll
was just
show
trying to find some images.
Let me see if I can blow that picture up. Yeah, it doesn't blow up, damn it.
Oh, doesn't it?
No. It's going to
Oh,
stay
that's a
that.
shame.
Yeah, it's going to stay that size, unfortunately. That's a small one. I can tell you right now, that's a very small one.
All these ones on Google seem to be quite small images looking at them. That's a shame.
Yeah.
Yeah, they ain't very big thumbnails.
Yeah, well, that was sort of what we were trying to show, but unfortunately that doesn't do it justice.
No.
That's a little 3-field. You can tell by the number of hoppers under it. It's got 3 hoppers in
I'm not
direction
seeing
of
what you're
gas flow.
showing.
Oh, wait. I'm sorry. You'd have to. I got
That
to
on
share my
YouTube.
screen. Hang on a second. Let me see what I want. I want to share that. There, now you can see it. Yeah, I wish we could blow that thing up. But that's the kind of stuff I worked on. Those were the systems I designed. Electrostatic precipitators, fabric filters, not so much with flue gas desulfurization systems, but occasionally a little bit of stuff on that too. And mercury control and all kinds of different things. So I actually had an employer and a job that I went to. Unlike apparently a lot of these guys, I don't know what they do. I know Bev doesn't do a damn thing. He's a caregiver, right? Whatever the hell that means. It must not be a hard job though, because he's got time to sit 4 and 5 hours at a stretch on live streams. I need a job like that. Wait a minute, I got a job like that. I'm retired.
Actually, the trick. Hello, where am I getting feedback from?
I don't know.
Who?
Beats
That's
me.
weird.
Shouldn't be from me.
Hang on, I'll drop out and come back in.
Can I get a mic check?
You're very faint.
Is it?
Oh, the echo's gone. Yay!
Oh, that's Sean Hawkins. Hello,
Yeah.
Sean.
Yeah, I just got a new headset. Razer Kraken is the model, and just trying out on different platforms.
Yeah, I had to turn you way up, but I can hear you now.
What was it? Oh yeah. The trick is you can do both at once. You just work from home.
Yeah, true.
There is the odd time that somebody's doing the live stream. It's like, yeah, sorry, I won't be there. I've got to go to site, which is damned inconvenient. But That's the nature of the beast, I'm afraid, though.
Yeah,
It does
that
actually get
messes,
me out of the house as well, so
that messes things up a little bit.
yeah.
I see Gary Wybinger has shown up.
Oh,
Hello,
he's
Gary.
claiming an EQ mount. He's claiming an EQ mount can't track things in the sky at 15 degrees an hour.
Yeah,
Well,
it
that's
can.
strange because that's what it's built for.
Yeah.
It does what it's designed to do.
That's right. That's exactly what it does. Amazing.
Still, it's Gary. What you expect?
Yeah, Gary's
Yeah.
not too smart.
No.
And my volume's up all the way on this microphone.
You're very quiet. Hang on, let me. What did I just crank you up to? I'll put you up to 200%.
That's where I've got him too.
You need to have a fiddle with some settings somewhere, whether it's your headphones or it's Discord or God knows what else.
Yeah, it could be just about anything. You know how
Yeah.
Discord behaves. Say something else, Sean. We can't tell without you.
So something else. Well, I'm looking to see where I can adjust the volume of the mic, and I don't see. Hold on a second.
I mean, the quality of the mics, from what I can hear, is very good. But you know, so you're still low, and I've got you at 200% as well.
Huh. Okay. Is
Oh, hello. That was a little louder.
that better?
Yeah, it's getting there.
Yeah,
Okay.
right click that
Move.
mic button down there.
I moved the thing 5 millimeters closer to my mouth.
Ah,
It's
Well,
the only
maybe
thing I
that's-
did. Huh. Okay.
Yeah, that's working.
All right. Cool.
That
Oh, your
sounded
mic.
better.
Mic volume. There's 100%. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Well, I'm still sitting at 200%, but you're perfectly audible now.
Okay. All righty. That's
Yeah.
all I wanted. That's all I needed.
well, that is the thing with a new headset. You need feedback, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You need somebody to go, whoa, turn that backer down, or is there somebody in the next room?
Yeah, you really do. Because I mean, I've got OBS Studio or OBS whatever, Streamlabs OBS, and
Yeah.
I can listen to it on my phone, and the microphone sounds perfect. But then I record it through OBS and listen to the recording, and it sounds like I'm at the bottom of a well.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah, Rob Parks out in the chat says you're plenty loud out there now. So,
Okay, good.
all right. Well, we'll leave you set that way, and probably you'll find something to change. The next time you come in, you'll blow my eardrums out. But okay.
Probably. It is a nice headset, man. I went on a game, my favorite game, DayZ.
You dropped to nothing again.
Now he's dropped right back.
You can hear everything with these headphones. It's got THX audio stereo. Pretty nice. But I dropped back down to nothing again.
Yeah, a second ago you did. You're back now.
Jesus. Okay. All right. Well, I moved the microphone back just a little bit, and now it's back at my mouth. So I guess I'm just gonna have to have it right at my mouth.
You're going to have to not breathe.
Yeah. Well, it's got noise. It's got noise cancellation, but it's not canceling
Yeah.
my breathing out.
Noise cancellation doesn't cancel wind noise.
No, or noise coming from the microphone that you're talking into.
Right.
It does it on everything else. So, all right, cool. Carry on.
Thank you.
Thanks for checking in, Sean.
You're welcome.
We certainly appreciate that.
Thank you for the feedback. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. See if we can con a few more people into joining us here. People are starting to trickle in slowly. Getting a few viewers now.
Yeah, when the odd when they notice the notification and it's like, oh, hello, Blues Live.
Yeah.
Man, yeah, it takes a while sometimes.
I see Ace Fox 1 out there, Rob Parks, Devil's Advocates, Real Cygnus, Gary Wybinger. We already said hello to Gary. Irish Steve's out there. Barry Owen was out there. John Davies. Let's see who else I'm seeing up here. Jogsy G. Chris Durham Music Channel. Chris Durham says, I think breathing perplexes Bev. I think a lot of things
perplexes Bev.
Yeah. Hey, man, what's going on?
Not much. I'm actually getting out of work at a decent time.
Excellent. Excellent. It's fairly early, isn't it?
Yeah, 4:45.
Yeah.
Do have a bit of a correction, though, for you.
What's that?
There are some systems that actually use noise canceling to get rid of wind noise. And right now, Cardo Systems has the best one on the market. Comes in handy for helmet communication systems when you're on a motorcycle.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. I am sure there's all kinds of technology sitting around out there that I don't know about. I don't spend nearly enough time looking into that stuff when it gets right down to it.
Yeah, I'll admit I only know about it because that's what I use on my helmet.
Yeah, I forgot. You're a bike rider, aren't you?
Every chance I get.
There you go.
And no, it's not just based on weather, people. I will go riding in the rain.
Sod that. That's what cars for.
It all depends. Like if I know I'm gonna be picking up enough stuff, I'll take the car. Otherwise, I'm taking the bike. It's more fun.
My bike's just a toy. I'm an admitted, fair weather rider. I just go out on it for a laugh. If I get caught out in the rain, so be it. But if it's tipped it down before I go out, yeah, there's a car with a roof and air conditioning and a stereo and comfy seats and yeah.
Hey, the seat on my bike is very comfy, but I don't have the air conditioning, so you do got it there.
There are days when I just think it's too hot to ride the bike. When you're doing 60, 70 mile an hour down the road and you've got your jacket unzipped, just that certain way, and you lean forward in such a way that your jacket opens up and all the air goes through and you're still too hot, no, that's when you want the car and the air conditioning set on as cold as possible.
I have not run into that, and I've gone riding in triple degree weather and decent humidity. I think part of it is this is one thing with a lot of the retailers that sell the protective equipment for motorcycle riding. Once you've ridden in it, you can't return it. But how are you going to know if a mesh ventilated jacket is actually performing the way you want if you don't go for a ride?
Correct. Yeah, you can look at it in the shop all you like until you put it on and actually go out and ride in it and try it. You don't know.
Seems
It's
like
too late because you bought it.
Yeah, it seems like they ought to have some demo garments you could borrow for a minute to see if it suits you.
Shit.
Nah, that would make way too much sense.
Yeah, although I will admit I have lucked out with the choices I've made on jackets, as my hot weather jacket actually does flow a good amount of air. But then again, you get what you pay for oftentimes, and I dropped like, what was it, $350 for it?
Yeah, no, you are certainly right. Yeah, if you buy cheap, then you know you get what you pay for, don't you?
Yeah, put your favorite picture up on the screen there, farmers. You'll probably see it on YouTube.
The cock womble. It's that bloody feedback again.
Where's that coming from?
I don't know.
Huh. I'm not hearing anything. I don't see anybody lighting up.
Hang on. Right. It only happens when I watch your live stream. What the bloody hell's going on there?
You want me to shut that off? I can do that.
No. Right. When I opened your live stream, Discord had set the volume in the live stream to flat out. I've just turned it down and the feedback's gone.
Okay.
How very... Yeah, no, it's gone. That's good. Irish stew. Have you got a meme for a fuck nugget?
We'll look around. We could find one, maybe. Pretty much the same thing if you really get right down to it, Irish.
Yeah.
Pretty much the same thing. Yeah, we'll turn that thing off. Kind of disgusting to look at. Not the cockwomble, the gnome on the other side.
We just lost the chap who used to narrate the Wombles, which of course was a very famous kids' TV show over here, narrated by a chap called Bernard Cribbins. He died yesterday.
Oh.
I'm sure people in the UK will be aware of that anyway, but yeah, he oh God, he appeared in some of the early Doctor Who films. I mean, he was all over TV in sort of the 60s and the 70s. And yeah, and yeah, I mean, he was 97 or something, I think. He was, yeah. He wasn't a young lad.
Wow. 97. That's
I think it was something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, no, sorry, 93. Still 93, 97. You're splitting hairs, really, aren't you?
Yeah, sort of. So let's see. I want to go back here. I'll put something else up on the screen that we can look at. Because I did want to talk a little bit more about water levels for all the good that's going to do.
Oh, God. You know, has anyone ever been able to actually pin the non-thinking idiot to an actual answer
No.
when it comes to that whole setup?
No.
Well, he's now had to refine it because he's now, oh God, how does he put it now? Something to do with Euclid. What's the phrase he uses?
Realizing Euclid.
Well, that's it. His reason for doing the water level test is to realize Euclid, whatever the fuck that means.
Well, here's the thing, Bev, ya numpty. You live in a three-dimensional world. And what was Euclid dealing with? Oh yeah, a two-dimensional realm. Damn, looks like you're pretty boned there.
Hey, is this Jared?
Yep.
It might be.
See,
It
you
is,
changed
it
your
is.
name.
Hey, George, how you been?
So right now I'm just fighting COVID. So I take it, I'd assume by now you're all through with your university and off doing great things.
Oh, I've been doing great things throughout, but yeah, I finished up the got to a point where actually work kind of took over the workload on the so I still have 3 courses to finish out the physics side of things,
Okay.
but I've pivoted away from security systems into just outright uh, logic and process controls. So I've actually been having fun with that. I'm actually going to be in Arkansas the first part of next week, checking on an implementation that I designed.
Okay. Well, good. Well, I'll let you guys carry on. I just wanted to say hello to Jared. Been probably a few years since we've chatted.
Yeah, there we go. Gotta get this thing back up on the screen that we had there yesterday.
Hello, this is all getting very Inception. So we're watching Bev watching us from yesterday.
Yeah, well, this is a screen. This is coming off my stream last night. I kept this this graphic up on the screen for quite a while. But again, they did the flat Earth reset today, as usual, right? That happens.
Of course.
That always happens. And so now they're terribly confused. So I wanted to clear up a couple of things. That number one, I said something yesterday that Bev immediately jumped on when George was talking about horizontal planes and stuff like that. I said I actually object to the use of the phrase horizontal plane when you talk about a line from point A on the water level to point C over here on the right, because technically those 2 points cannot define a plane. But that's a pedantic, sort of picky little argument, right? The classic phraseology used by flat earthers and everybody else really is that is establishing a horizontal plane. Well, it really doesn't. Only if you're talking about the very center point, B, that is horizontal at that point, at point B. But what the graphic was doing was simply trying to explain the fact that if you've got a water level that's got a riser in the center of it, you actually have 3 different horizontal planes or horizontal lines that you could construct. Imagine, at least imaginary lines you could construct. One from point A to point C, one from point A to point B, in which case that would be horizontal at the midpoint between A and B because those gravity vectors are radial. And another one from point B to point C, right? That's all this was trying to show. And no, the center is not higher than the point B is not higher than point A or point C. Those are at the same elevation. These are constant elevations on a spherical surface. That's what it is. That's how it works in real life.
Well, at that point, you've lost Bev, haven't you?
Yeah. So I thought we'd talk about that just a little bit, just to get beyond the bullshit that Bev is putting out on his stream today, because it's slightly aggravating that these guys consistently lie about what's being said and what somebody has said. I don't know what to tell them. Or they apparently they're just not bright enough to figure this out. And shout out to Digital Demonic Davros for $2 Australian. It is now just remove the goalpost completely. Yeah, absolutely, Davros. That's exactly what they do. But that's what that graphic was all about. That's the graphic. That's the graphic that I drew. Yeah.
Now, every time that I hear a Flurf misrepresent something that they were told by anyone trying to have a conversation with them, what immediately jumps to my mind is Chris Tucker from the first Rush Hour when he's talking to Jackie Chan. And the answer is no, they do not understand the words that are coming out of our mouths.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think some of them don't, but some do. I fully believe Bev knows exactly what we're saying.
Mm.
He is just deceiving that group of people that he surrounds himself with. But Bev knows. He understands our model just as well as we do.
And to think, what kind of dishonest shit do you have to be to stomach yourself to argue against what you know is actually true?
Really.
Mm.
And that is, in fact, a good point. And that's what they do. That's what some of them are willing to do. Now, if you take people like S.E. Montreal, that old boy is just not that bright. He swallows all of this stuff hook, line, and sinker because he doesn't know any better. And quite a few of them fall into that category. But you've got the other ones, like Oakley and Bev. Sleeping Warrior even, I think, knows better. And they are intentionally lying to people.
Oh, and that last one is a special nonce on top of it.
Yeah. Yeah, Charlie Welch is pointing out that Oakley had 100 people watching this morning and 7,000 likes.
Yes,
I saw that. How did that happen?
No, not fishy at all whatsoever. Nothing to see here, folks.
Oh, no.
Yeah, nothing. Nothing dodgy about that whatsoever. I mean, buying likes.
Jeez.
No. It's not buying likes. It's called investing in the business.
Yes, same thing.
We got 52 watching and only 26 likes. You guys need to push that like button a shitload of times, please.
Oh, if only it worked like that.
Well, okay, but do we push it an even or odd number of times?
I don't know. I do not know.
Oh, no. If I keep tapping it, it just goes up and down. Oh, no.
Are you playing with yourself again in the like button?
I haven't got 200 sock accounts. Oh, no.
Amazing.
He couldn't have made it any. And in midstream, they even joked about it.
Barry Owen says he's on strike until Gladys comes on. Well, be careful what you wish for. I might have Gladys around here somewhere. Hold on, says too late. I'm already there.
Oh, dear.
Does that clear up the water level, folks? Is anybody having any trouble understanding what I'm saying? That green line you're seeing there, that green line would be representative of some elevation or the other. Maybe it's mean sea level. Maybe it's 500 feet above mean sea level. Hell, maybe it's 90 feet below mean sea level. But that's the curvature of the Earth. And the red line, well, the water level is following that green line. The red lines are just straight lines drawn between the 3 points of the water level. And the entire graphic is just to show you that 2 points do not determine in any way, shape, or form the shape of the surface. They can't. And this is why Bev's realizing Euclid is pure, unadulterated, 100% bullshit. You cannot overlap water levels and determine it either. You've got to have some way of, you've got to have some sort of straight line reference to gauge this against. Otherwise, it just will not work. See, we got the porn bot back again. I wonder where that thing comes from.
Yeah, it's back. I don't know.
You see it on all kinds of streams. I saw it on Oakley's stream, actually. So who knows who's doing it? You would think YouTube could do something about it, though.
Yeah, but yeah. Well, I think they do to a certain degree, but then whoever's behind these things just sort of finds ways around it. I don't know.
If you set it for subscribers only, can that show?
I don't know.
Yeah, that should clear up the problem, but then smaller channels doing that, you run the risk of not getting the audience growth that you might be looking for if you actually care about that sort of thing. So there is that concern to be had.
Yeah, I see. I can science that out in the chat. What's up, man? You want to come in and join us? Let me know and I'll pop a link out there in the...
I mean, he's right. You know, Bev knows these things and understands these things. You've only got to listen to his very considered and structured answers, and you have to listen to what he doesn't say. You have to listen to what he's avoiding. He knows what he's doing.
Oh yeah.
I do not agree, farmers.
I know you don't. But opinions are like arseholes.
Yes, but I have a fact.
Oh, is it a fact?
Yes.
We like facts.
That's nice, that, isn't it? Datums. He gets confused.
Oh yes, he doesn't like. He really doesn't like datums. This is true.
I have both facts and evidence of this to be true. He doesn't know how to set either what you would call a total station or running dimensions.
We like running dimensions.
Well, so that just points towards him being a liar about experience and expertise in that part of it. But that doesn't negate the idea that he actually knows better, but is just arguing against it for the attention.
Oh, denial of service, I think.
Yeah, that is a good parallel too.
Or denying our reality and replacing it with his own bullshit.
Well, that's how you get all the all the conspiratards on your side is, oh, it's from the establishment? No, it's got to be wrong. It's got to be messed up in some way or another.
And Jared, where are you reporting to us from?
My car.
Me too. I'm stationary
Yeah.
drinking coffee.
Well, I'm in traffic about 5 minutes away from the house.
I thought only Flurfs dream from their cars.
No. I don't have the camera going, and I'm also not using push to talk or looking at the screen or anything.
I guess we'll forgive you.
I'm actually paying attention to the jackasses in front of me.
Also, I'm not from Westchester County.
I was just up there a couple of weeks ago. I was looking for Steve, but I couldn't find him anywhere.
Just look for a woman calling her husband an idiot.
That does not narrow it down. Doesn't matter where you are. That does not narrow it down.
Yeah, you need something more than that.
I was tipped off to this live stream because I heard Lee Bassett's voice on YouTube. I knew something was up.
What's really funny is the little jibe you had at Oakley for his views versus likes. We were just talking about that down in Gem Panda's server.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was anomalous. The actual view count was like 623 at last look, with still 7.5k likes. We had some twat in there going, "Oh, the algorithm's just checking against it." It's like, no, 7,500 people had to have at least watched it. It was a live stream, and then to have clicked the like button, it would have registered the view.
Yeah. Yeah, it gives the game away when it happens on the live stream. If that had happened on, just any old video that had been posted afterwards, then that might have been different. But when it's a live stream, yeah, that it gives the game away rather obviously, blatantly.
It's like everyone goes, "I know how that algorithm works." Not even YouTube knows how the algorithm works. It's got redundancies in it from when YouTube first started. I can science that is in here.
Yep.
And yet,
am I here? I think I'm here.
You're here.
Yeah, you made it. Welcome.
You're here. You're there. You're everywhere.
Awesome.
And how are you today, sir?
Well, I can't complain, but sometimes I still do.
Yeah. I think
He's a Joe Walsh fan.
Oh, yeah.
Wait.
And I'm an old man, so
Wait. Everything's going okay, but you can still find something to complain about. You must be ex-military.
Actually, no. Yeah, when I went down to the recruiter to join the Air Force. I was really close. Took all the tests and everything, but I didn't make it. It was during the 90s when peace was breaking out all over the world.
When they were in their force reduction schemes.
Yeah. But yeah, I never did
Jared?
that. I went to NASA instead.
Yeah, Jared, the cynicism from this bloke comes from going through middle age.
Well, yeah. Well, it's tough to tell because I'm fucking there. I've always had the cynicism, and again, I blame the military, but I'm also in that age bracket where it's like, yeah, people are fucking stupid. Why can't we get rid of them?
Your smugness evolved.
Hey, Mr. I can science that. This is Earth is Life. I just want to say the beginning of your video when you were talking to Bev and you pulled out the spaghetti and the cell phone, that was that was awesome.
Epic.
Yeah.
Like you could have did all of this with a spaghetti and a cell phone.
I'll have to look that up.
Oh, it's great.
What brand of spaghetti did you use? That might have a consequence.
Yeah, I don't know, it was angel hair, whatever's in the cabinet. I do like to do, kitchen science. I like to do what I call dollar store science. show people that, you know, science isn't just for LIGO, right? We can all do this. It's not a big deal.
So because Bev claims he's not doing this to determine whether the shape of the Earth is curved or flat.
Correct.
That's what he's claiming.
Right.
But yet he's just saying, "Oh, I'm just trying to realize Euclid." Well, you could have did that anywhere.
That was the point.
Could
And
have done that
Yeah.
with a piece of spaghetti and a cell phone.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. If this isn't
And
reference to the shape of the Earth somehow or the other, why the hell are you going to all the trouble of 400-foot water levels? What the hell?
Hey there, ICST. Welcome aboard. This is George. Con with George.
Hey, George.
Yeah, we spoke earlier today.
Yep.
How do you pronounce Khan? Do you pronounce it like William Shatner in Star
Yeah.
Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan?
Yes.
Yeah, you could throw Genghis in front of it if you wish.
No, this is Kong Sing Noon from Star Trek.
Yeah, yelling at it and
Yeah.
you know, putting
It-
about
it-
50 ends on it.
No, where it
Yes.
comes from is when I saw Khan in the litter of pups, I just knew he was going to be a genetically superior male. So I named him Khan.
So not Ricardo Montalban.
Same
No,
idea.
it's easier to shout Khan than it is to shout Ricardo Montalban.
Yeah,
Or
it
the
is.
plane.
Plane bosses, the plane.
So when the dog's out running around in the yard and it's time for him to come in, you open the door and you yell out the door, "Con!"
Yeah, that's not necessary.
I'm hoping your dog hasn't killed David.
Oh, jeez.
David?
William Shatner's son in Star Trek 2.
Oh yeah.
Now, to be pedantic, it was the Klingons that killed David.
Oh God, here we go.
Dude, what? I'm not allowed to Mandela anything anymore?
No, you're not.
Well, he did cause
Okay.
he did cause the death if you believe in but-for causation. But for Khan's return, David would be alive. There you go.
But then, why did they replace Kim Cattrall as Savick? Or Kirstie Alley? I mean, like, what did three different people play Savick?
Wasn't it Spock who said, "May the force be with you"?
Now, Kim Cattrall almost refused. Well, yeah, she refused the role in Star Trek 3 because she didn't want to play the same character that someone else had. So her
Kirstie
character
Alley.
was actually someone else. The issue with Kirstie Alley is the producers didn't want to pay out.
Why?
Wait.
Because she wouldn't put out? Sorry for taking this down a bad path. But anyway, we'll save that for Jared's show.
Which will be in a few weeks.
Oh, you mean your monthly?
Kanawar Damar might happen more frequently. It all depends on my schedule, which the last month has been fucking crazy.
Like I said, your monthly.
Oh, no. Veterans Talk, that is outright monthly. Because you crazy bastards.
Oh, I thought you were
But-
just having woman problems.
No, I like having a life away from the computer screen when I can get a chance at it, so I'm capitalizing on that opportunity.
That wasn't the implication.
Oh, I know what the implication was. I just decided to ignore it because I know you.
Do you really?
I know you well enough to know where your humor is going to take just about every conversation.
Not hard to
Winning.
figure out, is it?
Thanks, Blue.
Not
I do
hard
it
to
more
figure
often
out
down
at
in
all.
gems. I do it more often down in gems now because we've either got Johnny or Pete saying something. The moment I start up, Pete has to talk about phallic symbols.
Yeah, he
Oh.
likes talking about them, doesn't he?
Oh, please.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to this horizontal thing, right? How do these guys know they're drawing a true straight line anyway?
Because they presume they have.
Are we talking about
Because they
horizontal
think-
or horizontal? They're different.
Because they think water is level and horizontal.
But
But
level
that's-
is horizontal.
Yeah, but I'm talking about
Sorry.
with a ruler. Do you know whether that's actually straight, perpendicular, or tangent to something?
No.
Hey, I've
No,
got
the answer is yes, because it's all of the above based on what you reference it to.
Thank you, Jared.
Because they looked at a glass of water and they think water is flat and level, and therefore all water is flat and level.
If they looked at that closely, even if it's not all the way to the top of the cup, there will be a, was it the meniscus? Will still happen.
Yeah, surface
It'll either
tension.
go convex or concave. Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure they know that water naturally wants to form a sphere with no forces acting on it.
Actually, when I was talking to them yesterday, they really confused me with something because I said water in a water level is just water. It just does what water does. Magical thing that behaves differently from water in the real world. And they said no, that I was an idiot for saying that.
That makes no sense.
Does anyone know what they're talking about?
No.
Did he hit you with the law of communicating vessels?
Yeah, they definitely brought that one up. But they didn't this last time, no. Probably because they already saw my response to it and they didn't want to go there. That's the thing. Once they know where you're going, they know whether they want to go there or not, and so they just won't. Right? So if you say, "Sure, why don't you show me your citation for that, and we'll examine it," then they're just like, "Oh, well, no, we're not gonna."
There was a conversation on there was a guy named Brandon that used to have a channel where they all used to go on, and at one point Bev was on there explaining this very test, and the entire time Brandon was Brandon was the host of the show. He was a flat earther, and the entire time he was asking Bev, like, how is your test going to determine the shape of the Earth? And literally for almost a half an hour, Bev was skating around the question and really wouldn't answer it directly. Like, if you have 3 points of a water level, how do you know that all 3 points line up in a plane? That was basically the question he was asking the entire time, and he would never answer it. He would just either say, like, because of geometry or because of straight lines, but he wouldn't say, he wouldn't answer it directly.
Yeah, well, there's definitely a blend of he just doesn't know, and he just really doesn't want to talk about it. There's it's a weird sliding blend. You never know at any given moment where he's at on that spectrum. And like I just told him yesterday that any 2 points doesn't create a plane; it creates a line.
Right.
And then he just insisted, no, you only need 1 point to create a plane. It's weird, It's just weird.
How does 1 point create a plane?
It doesn't create a plane. It creates a tangent, and that's where he's really intentionally screwing up the whole thing.
Did he really say that? 1 point creates a plane?
Well, yeah, he insisted that the 1 point of like a water level creates a plane. And I was trying to express that, well, there's more information that you must be implying. There must be implicit information that you've left out, right? That it's parallel to something, or you need more data.
Yeah.
But that was too complicated a thing for him to engage with.
Well, you could, of course, say that a point is the point of tangency, and from that infer the location of a plane, right? You could do that.
I'm always a little surprised at these conversations, because I suggested to him that if you just take and you say it's parallel to the horizon and it contains this point, boom, now you got a plane, right? But he wouldn't take that.
Yeah.
Why he wouldn't accept that that's what he was trying to say, I don't understand, other than he just doesn't get it.
It's also a misunderstanding of which way down is on the globe model. Because he thinks the water should flow in in either direction. Because I guess he believes in some pump, or what he likes to say.
Yeah, he likes to pretend
Yes.
that drop and hump are different things.
Right.
And he likes to represent that he does not understand how down works. But I think that if you pinned him down and just said, where is down in this diagram, he could draw it. I feel like I've had him draw that before.
No, I don't think he would even answer it. I think he would avoid it, like he always does.
Yeah.
Because I think Rumpus was asking that question, like which way. I think, and he was asking this question for like a few minutes, like on the globe model, the way we understand it, which way is down? Like, how do we determine down on the globe model? And he would not answer it.
Yeah. Well, the truth is that seems super simple to you and me, and we take for granted that everybody else gets it. It's, after having another conversation with a different flat earther recently, I came away deciding the other person that I talked to just really didn't get it. That when you look at an individual location, he got it. He's like, okay, that's down. Down is that way, and he got it correct. And I said, okay, so how does water level work? That was now too abstract. He couldn't connect those dots.
How come?
Who was the other person? Was it SE Montreal?
There was a guy named Iggy, somebody I'd
Oh.
never spoken to before. But yeah, this guy seemed real to me and genuine, and I could see in his eyes that abstraction from a point to a complete surface was a bridge too far for him. And I do think there's some of that goes on. But if you then reach into your spice drawer and you pickle on there, spread a whole healthy dose of I don't want to get this, and add another dash of I don't want anyone to see me understand this, then it becomes real easy to just not understand it.
Right.
How can
perfect.
2-year-olds understand this concept then? I mean, you ask any 2-year-old what direction down is, they will immediately know.
Here's some points I made with him the other day, and he had no answer for it. So I've got it up on the screen. I don't know if you guys can see it or read it or whatever. But I told him, I'll read it to you. A normal water level defines exactly 2 points in space that are at the same potential. Water levels with more than 2 risers will define additional points of equal potential. If this description exceeds your ability to understand and comprehend, please stop here. It's going to get more complex. Number 1, 2 points cannot define a plane. Please refer to your friend Euclid. 2 points can only define an imaginary line in space, and that line consists of all the points that lie along the shortest distance between the 2 specific points, or a linear extension of that shortest distance in either direction. 2. 3 non-collinear points define an imaginary plane in space. A plane is a flat surface on which a straight line connecting any 2 points on it would wholly lie. Again, have a chat with your buddy Euclid on this if you disagree. Number 3. Water is not discussed by Euclid in any way, and water is not obligated to conform to Euclidean principles. Water is obligated to conform to the forces acting on it and to the shape of any container bounding it. Gravitational force is the primary force acting on water in a water level. We are ignoring centrifugal acceleration that varies with latitude and acts to redirect the gravity vector slightly, along with other possible forces such as difference in air pressure across the length of the water level or potential temperature differentials, as these effects are normally very small. Number 4. The imaginary line described by water level with 2 and only 2 risers does not predict nor does it specify the position of the water in a third riser connected to the same water level and positioned between the beginning and ending risers. That position is determined by the forces acting on the water, primarily gravity. Number 5. If gravity vectors are parallel, we would expect the level of the water in all the risers of the water level to be collinear, i.e., forming a straight line. 6. If the gravity vectors are radial, we would expect the level of the water in the risers of the water level to conform to a curve of constant radius. And number 7. No test that uses only the water level as its own reference can distinguish between these 2 conditions. Overlapping 2 water levels only proves that both a straight line or a curved line segment of a constant radius can be extended indefinitely. The observation is exactly the same for both situations. You have not shown which condition is present with this pseudo-test. Moreover, you have not realized Euclid. By failing to establish a straight line reference, you have no idea if the water level points are collinear. You have simply shown that water is level, a fact that hardly needed testing. Your objective seems to be to define the actual shape of the water. I refer you to the GPS measurements of Lake Pontchartrain. Water is most definitely not flat, and level is clearly not horizontal. Bev had no answer for any of that.
What I found interesting about this the little presentation he's made is he provided no data. He just sort of reasoned his way into it.
Yeah.
And if you start off with a false premise, you'll end up with a false conclusion.
There simply is no conceivable geometric argument that you can, pure geometric argument you could make that could ever distinguish between those 2 very different conditions that we just talked about, that I just talked about. If there is a way of doing it, please somebody tell me. I can't figure out how you would ever do that. You can only figure that out with testing.
I could, but you'd get demonetized if I said it.
Well, in that case, don't say it.
Yeah, but you know what I'm thinking.
Okay, I'm waiting.
Let's just say it has somewhere where you shouldn't put a goalpost.
We're going there, are we?
It's his favorite hole to play with. Of course he's going to go there.
I was just going to say, I'm just over and over, I'm just sort of blown away that that you just suggest to somebody one of 3, 4, 5 different ways to do that test. And they will ignore you or they will reject anything.
Yeah.
That actually could tell the difference. and instead bring this forth and say, no, what, let's do it this way. This, my way works, right? And then you explain to them that, no, your way is no good. How about this simpler way? And no. We can't talk about GPS. We can't talk about, optics. Can't do optics. Can't do GPS. Can't do spherical excess. Can't do, any number of things. Those are all bad. But my way is good.
Yeah.
Also,
I can help you.
Also, him saying that you can't sight down the water level. Well, how would you even tell if they're level if you don't sight one end to the other?
Yeah, I had some fun with that. I don't know if anyone else had as much fun as I did, but teasing him about the fact that he insists that a water level is level because it's in the name, but a sight line is not a line.
Yeah, I remember that.
I love when he proves that water is level by using the water level. It's sort of like, well, duh, but it's not a water horizontal; it's a water level.
These
it's
guys
very
must
simple.
be amazed. Sorry, farmers. They're amazed with a spirit bubble.
Yeah, keep them happy for hours. They're basically rejecting and knowingly rejecting anything that's going to provide evidence that the Earth isn't flat. Because this is what flat earthers do. If anything goes against their argument, it has to be rejected out of hand. It has to be fake. It has to be ignored. It has to be lied about. That's why they can't use GPS.
Well,
they won't use GPS because where does that come from?
Well,
That comes from
remember-
satellites, but space is fake.
So I take that.
Well,
I'm sorry, you go.
No, I just wanted to say real quick. Remember, they don't think the Earth is flat. We've got hills and valleys. Remember?
No, they do quite specifically think the Earth is not a sphere, but they are never going to openly say on air where anybody's
Right.
listening that they're flat earthers, because they have now, after all this time, realised the stigma that's attached to telling people that you're a flat earther. That's why 2 years ago Research Flat Earth was stickers were stuck on just about everything Bev owned.
Yeah.
Anytime you saw a picture of anything of his, it had Research Flat Earth stickers all over it. Now, I'm not a flat earther. I can prove it's not flat. But you ask him what shape of the Earth is, and he will not give you an answer. He will not give you a straight answer to that, because he can't. Because his only answer will be, it's flat. And he daren't do that. And no doubt he will lie about that when he reviews this show tomorrow. No, not tomorrow, because they don't stream on Saturdays. Come Monday, he'll look over this and they'll be, oh, Farmer's Boy, what are you talking about? I can prove it's not flat. Because we've heard it too many fucking times. They're flat earthers.
Of course they are. Hey,
We know it and they know it.
Yeah, I did a video, I don't know, not long back on an exchange between Bev and I in a chat, right? Where I simply said, okay, well, I agree with you. The solid part of the Earth that we walk around on is not flat. I grant you that. You're absolutely correct. Now let's talk about the 70% of it that's covered by water. What shape is that? And that went on for a long, long time with me trying to pin him down to tell me what the shape of the water is, and he won't even do that.
That's right. I remember that. Yeah, he wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole.
No.
Well, I think that's Bev's central theme right there, which is don't pin him down.
Right.
That's what defines him and his little channel is they say things that are confusing on purpose, like I can prove it's not flat. They know that causes a very confusing reaction in people, and that's why they do it.
Yep.
They're playing a semantic game on purpose.
I keep going back to the philosophers in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and I keep saying it because I think it's 100% true. It covers these people where they're on about, you know, finding the answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything, and they were going to build this giant computer, and one of them says, we demand specifically defined areas of doubt and uncertainty, and that's these guys through and through. It's exactly what they want, doubt and uncertainty.
Yeah, shout out to Doofus Manfred in the chat. He pointed out that I heard Bev say this, sea level is a point. It's like, what?
Well, we're coming back to datums again. He doesn't like datums. Sea level's a vertical datum.
Yeah, they have the damnedest time with concentric circles or concentric spheres or ellipsoids or anything like that.
Yeah.
Suddenly a hush fell over the crowd.
Sorry, I'm quite a moment of contemplation.
Yeah, it's
Is Gary still out there in the YouTube chat?
haven't seen him in a minute or two. I'm sure he's hanging around somewhere.
Yeah, it's not posted for a little while.
I think Gary's starving for some attention a little bit.
Oh, Gary's always starving for attention. Always.
Isn't that what most of these guys do it for?
Yeah.
Point of view compressed angular compression equals flat Earth.
Oh, no, that is a hell of a photo that Charlie Welsh has just put in the Discord.
Oh, let me see that.
The ISS
Oh, yeah.
over Stonehenge. I mean,
Gorgeous.
wow. Yeah. Wow.
That's
Says it all.
beautiful.
I want to know the camera settings and the conditions he had to get to, 1, get the ISS transit, 2, get the atmospheric conditions of the sunset being the way it is, and 3, the galactic center.
Yeah, what's that Milky Way image?
Yeah, I've got 3 letters for you, mate. I'll start with a C, give you a G, end with an I. We're done.
The fucking long exposure time lapse. It's just perfect. Just, you know, luck.
See if I can move that over and blow that up. There you go.
HDR.
Let everybody out in YouTube have a look at that. That is a gorgeous picture, isn't it?
Put that as your desktop background.
So that's not photoshopped in any way then. That galactic or that the sort of stars there, that which looks like a bit of the Milky Way, is genuinely there, is it?
Well, I've just this photo was posted on Reddit. Oh, actually, in the subreddit I'm a member of. Damn, that's interesting. And there's a somebody's copied a message from the guy who actually took the photo. Finally, after 2 failed attempts due to cloud, I finally got the ISS passing Stonehenge. Blah, 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 blah. For this, I knew I could use the tracker due to my experience in using it. So much so, exposure time was easy. 4 minutes at f4 and ISO 400 with a Canon RAW and my 15mm IREX Firefly lens. The foreground shot was 2 minutes f ISO 640, which makes it sound like it's
a stacked
multiple
image.
exposures.
It's a composite image.
I thought it might
That's
be.
how they do the high dynamic range photos. You can get very dim images and very bright images, and merge them together in the same
Yeah.
photo. A lot of people do that with the Orion Nebula also. They'll take a short exposure and some long exposures, and they'll blend them together. So that way you can see the core without blowing out all the stuff, just to see the dimmer stuff at the
Right.
edges.
Right. So everything is actually there. They were just taken at different times, with different camera settings.
Sounds like it. Yeah. So there's stacked
Yeah,
images. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like it's two shots. It's the ISS and then a separate one of the foreground.
Right. So I mean,
There's a
the point
lot
is,
of cameras that'll do that for you already. If you have a camera that has an HDR feature, when you turn on the HDR and you press the shutter on your camera, it'll take 2 or 3 shots right in a row and merge them together right inside the camera.
So it is a genuine image. It may be photoshopped together in some ways, but the point is those images were there. They're just the contrast enabling you to see them. The extra sensitivity on some parts of the image are improved over others. So yeah,
Well,
it's not like it's that image of the galactic bit is being taken off another image and then imposed on there. They are actually there together, but just enhanced in contrast.
You've got two photos in that shot. You've got the foreground, which presumably is the ground and Stonehenge. And then I think taken at the same time, but with different settings, or taken within sort of minutes or seconds, or however, you've got the sky and the ISS transit, and
Yeah, so
because
it's a valid
obviously
representation.
you couldn't get all that with one shot, could you? Because the settings for one wouldn't be right for the other part. It's
Yeah, the sky's too bright. If you've got that sunset there, you'd have problems getting that. See the sky like that with that detail.
but even so, that's a hell of a shot. That's
I was listening to I Can Science that being hassled by Bev and crew last night. God, I told Science that these guys are not nice before he went into them a couple of
no
the
shit.
first time. I said,
Especially that
I said,
Rakia.
Yeah, he seems to have got worse. Rakia's got over the last year. He's just got worse and worse and worse and worse, hasn't he? And I told I said that because I Can Science that was like going in there trying to be reasonable, trying to be nice, as normal people are. And same with conspiracy cats when dealing with these people. I warned him these people are not nice, but they go in there and then they get burnt. Well, not well, abused anyway. Perhaps that's a bit of. And I was feeling quite sorry for I Can Science that.
I can pinpoint the moment where Rakia went from being okay to being complete and utterly bonkers.
Go on then.
Yeah, go on. You can't just say that. Was that it? That's a teaser, is it? Right. Right.
This is where it's a Rocky Horror when he goes anticipate.
Yeah, I know the Ryman hypothesis, but I'm not telling anybody.
Yeah.
No, it was the nugget incident.
Oh, the chicken nuggets. Yes. Now you come to mention it. Yeah, you could well have a point there.
Story.
I'm
I
not
did
aware
not
of this.
hear about Rakia and his chicken nuggets. What happened?
Yeah, we need
Well,
explanation.
it was his moment because he pulled into Macca's, I think it was McDonald's, ordered like
probably
30 or 50 nuggets.
Whilst he was, in the live stream, and we heard it all. Him ordering this, mountain of nuggets, and of course, mercilessly took the piss ever after. And he tried to own it. He tried to own the whole nugget thing, but yeah, I think you might be right. I think that's when he, went off the rails, as it were.
Yeah, he went full nug life.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got worse and worse. It's a linear progression he's had to be getting from. He was initially, he was actually trying to be quite nice and reasonable, but he's now got worse than ever. And he complains about people over talking and things, but that's what he does more than anybody else, actually, almost as much as Bev. Well, even more than Bev. I mean, I was just watching.
You're
him
looking
with
for the
Dan
word
Waterman.
exponential. It was an exponential.
Yeah, I mean, he's just now on with Dan the Waterman, who has now went on to Bev's. I was just watching it for the last half an hour, and they were abusing like crazy. And Rakia, he would answer, they were abusing the guy. He sort of answered slightly back, and then Rakia came in, why are you interrupting us? And he'd just been getting this poor Dan the Waterman, who doesn't seem like a particularly nice guy either, was getting abuse from everybody, and I was actually feeling quite sorry for him. And then Rakia
Have they not realised that he's one of them?
yeah, well, that's the
Has
abuse that he was
Rakia
getting
been-
abuse of being a flat earther, and they all, of course, saying they're not, and of course they are. And then he was using, and he also one of Bev's favourite tricks, of course, is to not detail a question. Is you do realise how do you deal with the contradictions of the Earth not being flat? Then not detailing, of course, what he's talking about is the topography. I mean, you can obnoxious twats do this a lot. They don't give you a full question or something. They give half the information because that's their sort of private knowledge. They're trying to get you to then ask them what the rest of your question actually is and the details that may enable you to answer. It's a classic debating ploy of wankers. And so he was then the whole guy was then, well, what are you talking about? And then eventually it turned out that, of course, he was talking about the Earth. There are hills and valleys and God knows what. And so then the guy was getting a little bit annoyed about this. Said, well, of course we all know that. And then Bev saying, oh, well, so it's not flat then. I mean, and this argument that he uses about they're not flat earthers because there are hills and valleys, it's so desperate. I mean, he's so desperate to avoid being labelled as a flat earther that he would use an argument that no one believes that there are no hills and valleys. So when people declare themselves as flat earthers, they're clearly not declaring themselves as not believing in hills and valleys. So what does he think they're claiming? They're claiming the underlying geometry of the Earth, aren't they? And that's the thing.
Even Riley has had a go at them for saying that. I mean, when you've got the likes of Riley telling you that you're an idiot, I mean, fuck me.
That is pretty fucking bad. But what are the chances that Rakia and others have been watching and or hanging around with Darth Dawkins?
They couldn't understand it. No, they couldn't understand. No, Darth Dawkins is too intellectual.
They don't understand what topology is versus topography.
Indeed, yes.
That was funny.
Or invariable.
Brenda for that one. That was so funny.
Did you hear him 3 days ago? Bev did not know what invariably meant.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is a guy that didn't know. This is a guy who didn't know what great circles were until I told him 2 months ago. This is a guy who doesn't know what a radian is. This is a guy who didn't know what longitude was, and he thought it was time, and he had to be told, no, it's an angle on the Earth. So this is why we have latitude and longitude positions for things. And he didn't know that. I mean, this guy is a moron.
Rumpus, did you say longinus or longitude?
Longitude.
They may have been confusing it with a watch.
He's just confused, isn't he? And he's a devious wanker. I mean, the fact that he uses this flat argument because he's trying to dispel the label. He doesn't want to be labelled flat earther, and this is clearly a piece where he is trying to be deceptive. This is not him being stupid. And same with this Euclid realised trick. He's trying to gain some sort of credibility from using the word Euclid in his measurement of the real Earth. And of course, Euclid has got nothing to do with measuring the real Earth. Euclid is something that's deductive. It starts from some basic principles and then deduces everything from there, and it's provable. So if you were to do a test that disproved, so for instance, let's suppose his test disagreed with Euclid. Well, that would mean you'd got it wrong. Because Euclid is provable from first principles, and you don't use real-world tests to prove Euclid, you use logic. And if it did agree with it, then you've just simply agreed with the logic in Euclid. I mean, so from that point of view, he doesn't realise this, of course. He thinks you can derive a proof of the shape of the Earth from first principles, from the axioms of Euclid. And you can't. You've got to measure the Earth. You've got to interact with the physicality. And of course, Euclid says nothing about horizontal, vertical, down, or horizons. None of those things are in Euclid, except where he refers to it as a piece of paper, drawing a line across a horizontal on a piece of paper.
Rumpus,
because all those
you
things
have
are
just
real world
pointed
things.
Yeah, you're just pointing out the logical fallacies here. Logical inconsistency of what is said and what is meant, not matching each other.
Well, I'm demonstrating the principle that if you're going to talk about the real world, which is what Bev sort of claims he does, sometimes he says, sometimes he doesn't. It's a physical thing. You have to go out there and you have to interact with it. It's not a priori, it's a posteriori. In other words, it's something to do with your senses. You have to go out in the world. You get subjected to the laws of the reality, laws of physics, gravity down, horizons and things. And these are all things that are not defined by Euclid or any geometric or deductive proof. Deductive proofs come from the axioms of, parallel lines and God knows what. And from that, you end up with these geometric shapes and geometric principles. But if you have a conflict between the real world and these geometric principles, you've got it wrong, because the geometric principles are defined and logically provable. So it doesn't matter what you do in the real world with them, because there's bound to be a mismatch anyway between what you do in the real world. I mean, the Earth is not a perfect sphere. It's not even a perfect oblate sphere. It's all wiggly. So there's no real match between the stuff mentioned in Euclid and perfect geometry, which is dealing with abstract shapes, and the real world. It's close, and we obviously use the rules. We say, well, the Earth is a sort of oblate, a sort of spheroid, and then we can use a bit of geometry to model it, and then we use a theoretical model on the real world, and then we get answers that are close to what we see in the real world. But we've had to say, right, here's something in the real world we think we've got. We'll then use the principles, the geometric abstract principles that are logically provable in Euclid, like what would be the tangent to a sphere. But that's something that's provable only in geometry. So you can't have geometry telling us what the shape of the Earth is. You can only say, go in the real world, here's what we think the Earth is, and then use some geometric principles to sort of help you work out some other aspects of it. And he doesn't realise this. He thinks you can prove that the Earth is a sphere from first principles. And that's what his test is about. Realising Euclid. He doesn't realise that if it disagrees with Euclid, what he's doing, then he's done it wrong. And of course he has done it wrong, because he thinks he's dealing with parallel lines. And that's the first premise, as I was pointing out yesterday. He's got a premise in this proving Euclid that all these lines are parallel, and they're not.
I'd say.
Oh, Dan, I've
There's
just
pretty-
been listening to you being abused. Sorry to interrupt you
Yeah,
straight when you
this
came
is-
here. I've just heard you being abused like crazy, and
Well,
you had all of my sympathies.
Yes.
Real. I hate to go after the British, but it's always the same argument. It's like, you phrased it differently. I didn't phrase anything. I think you phrased it differently. Well, I'm not sure that's actually a phrase. And it's like, you never get to the subject. It's all about semantics.
No, Bev's a bit special, Dan. If you talk to us or Farmer's Boy here, other British people, we don't behave like that.
Rumpus,
he is an absolute wanker.
Rumpus, you're special too, don't get me wrong. But I'm going to blame Blue and everyone else for giving Bev any time of day, because I went there thinking that they had their shit together. Maybe if you guys had a beef with them, maybe they had something going on, and I couldn't find traction for a moment as an ally. And it started with...
They're not genuine.
Yeah, it started
They're
with...
not genuine people, mate.
It was amazing. They started with, hey, you were over at Blues, so you must be a troll. Well, they didn't look at chat. They didn't look like I hung out for a while. I hung out muted. I was barely welcome. They don't see that, right? They don't see anything. They're fucking...
Yeah, they abused you straight away, and you barely had a chance to say anything, and they deliberately misinterpreted what you said every time. They deliberately chose to misunderstand you. So, for instance, I can't remember now, but there were about 10 occasions when you said something, and they deliberately misinterpreted it. And I'm afraid Bev is a bit special. Don't label us British. Someone said I was a bit special, but at least I believe I engage with people honestly, and he doesn't. He is a dishonest wanker. He's one of the most objectionable people in this community, along with Nathan Oakley and QE. He's a very special case, so please don't label us Brits of anything to do with him. He is an obnoxious, deceiving, very stupid, ignorant wanker.
I apologize, Rumpus.
I'll second that, and quite possibly third it and fourth it as well.
But
he is a wanker.
You can't leave that shit on your screen, Blue. You can't be talking about him anymore. It's awful.
Well, he's one of the few flat earthers to actually present some sort of geometric argument that opposes it. And whereas the other flat earthers don't. They don't offer any... Well, he can't do maths, of course, but at least he does offer some sort of geometrical argument. He's also claimed to have done these silly measurements, and actually answering these things like his water level test does involve us having to think about it a bit. And he makes claims about level as horizontal, and he knows what an auto level is. And many other flat earthers, say the Euclids of this world, or QE, quantum arrays that you may have come across, they don't actually know about these things. They just simply make strange comments. Well, actually, Bev does as well, that you can't have angles, for instance, to a curve. So Bev actually does try and use some geometric arguments, and that's what makes him a little bit above the more normal twats. But he's obnoxious and deceiving with it.
Hey, Rumpus, I somewhat have to agree with Dan here. I've been turning on, muting, on and off, listening for the past 2 hours, and I just find it, I'm somewhat awestruck how intelligent university educated people that we find in BMS server will spend so much time talking about a moronic nobody like Bev, constantly, day after day. You guys have raised him to a level of a celebrity.
Yeah, I came here just to give you shit for it. Really, I did. I'm like, come on.
Well, you could argue with doing that with any flat earther is pointless. I mean, QE, for instance, he's a moron who doesn't understand he denies gravity. He doesn't understand. He claims that there's no such thing as space. You can argue that, but actually, but answering these people is actually quite challenging intellectually. So even though they're making stupid comments, to go through the process of showing that, for instance, the things like in space that are supposedly at 2,000 degrees C you aren't going to melt, to set things like that, or what space is, or the various other arguments are actually quite, as you know, George, they're quite demanding intellectually.
Oh, you have answered these questions over and over for the past 4 years. It's the same questions being answered over and over again.
Okay, George, but this rect
How
measurement
many
that I'm
different
doing.
ways do you have to answer the question?
Well, George, I mean, it's led me down, for instance, doing this
There's
rect
no
measurement.
challenge to it anymore. Come on.
Well, actually, there's a challenge to do that this Bedford Levels test with the benefit down the Waterman thing. That's been a challenge, and you and I have discussed in the initial design, which you helped me with. That's been a challenge. So actually doing those things, they're not for the benefit of Bev, they're for the benefit of ourselves.
It has nothing to do with Bev and his
Yeah,
minions.
but it's to do with flat earthers. In other words, I'm saying they've inspired us to learn about subjects to a greater degree. So, for instance, I had difficulty justifying heliocentrism until about 5 years ago, although I knew it obviously was. But actually, if you would asked, if you had information, if you just put in a field, 10,000 years ago and said, right, now prove that the Earth is we're in a heliocentric solar system, there are problems in doing that. And working these things out from first principles is useful, so that although you're saying we're giving Bev, they're making us ask questions that actually do involve a lot of intellectual exercise in answering properly.
That happened 5 years ago. It's the same stuff over and over. Go ahead, knock yourself out. Let them live rent free in your head.
George, you were on bloody Bev's just this evening. You can't moan about us doing it when you were there this evening.
I wasn't there.
You were commenting in the YouTube chat. They were talking about you. You were there last night. You can't moan about us doing it if you do it as well.
I was in the chat talking to.
There we go. Hypocritical,
Gadget
George.
Inspector. I'm not talking to Bev or these guys about the flat earth nonsense. Forget it.
Gadget Inspector is just as bad. He lied, for instance, that I'd cancelled Rect because you couldn't be there or something. He made that up. He's a liar. He's a lying wanker, just like Bev. And you were interacting with him, and he told you a lie about the fact that there's some bot there that was muting you.
Get over it, Trumpus. Jesus, let it go. I might have been in there for 10, 15 minutes talking to Gadget. Here you've been going on and on for 2 hours every day, day after day about Bev. My God.
No, I haven't.
Life.
I haven't been on. I haven't.
I will say this. Since I decided to stop poking the fuckwits, life has gotten so much better and more enjoyable.
Yeah.
What you've been doing more enjoyable than
Actually expanding my work and everything away from the computer.
You're riding a motorcycle.
Well, that's purely for fun, but that has been part of it as well. But it's more so I would not be in the position I am professionally if I did not shift the energy that I was giving to these fucking idiots back to where it deserved to be. It's one thing to address an argument once, maybe twice, but when you're going on 5 years of the same argument, you have to wonder, is it really worth the energy? Or should you just let them suffocate in their own idiocy? Because think of it this way. How much more energy and attention do they get just from you responding to them?
Well, I've only been on Bev's in voice chat twice in the last 2 months. I'm not doing it.
I'm talking about the group in general and in totality, not the individual.
Right. Okay. Well, okay, but you can't moan about individual. I mean, my individual effort into Bev is actually quite small. Though I went on there once for the first time, I say for a month. I think went on there twice for 2 minutes. So individually, I'm not putting much effort into Bev, but I have watched some of his stuff recently where he's having a go with his water level thing, I must admit. But I don't watch
there
him.
you go. He's
I
in
know
your
I did
head.
it. I did a little bit of it, but I haven't been watching him religiously or anything. And I mean, I barely watched Oakley. I think I've only watched about one Oakley thing and two Oakley things in the last 2 months or something.
I have never watched Oakley in the whole 5.5 years I've been in this community.
Bravo, bravo.
And I've had an argument with Bev in Gem Panda's server. Note he's been not there for a very long time. Almost 2 years ago, the argument hasn't changed. It's essentially the same argument for the past 2 years.
Well, it's never going to
At
change.
least for Bev.
Yeah, it's never going to change. That's all he's
hopefully
got.
hopefully this wrecked thing I'm doing is going to give a visual live representation of the drop of water, which, if you accept the visuals that I'm going to be presenting, you can't argue with. And there's the same things that George did as well.
Yeah, but they
several years
will.
ago. They
You
tried
know
to,
they'll
yeah.
argue. They won't. They
Yeah,
won't
they-
accept it for a minute. They'll come up with some bullshit way that you've deceived or you've cheated or you've done something. Because there's no way they're going to accept it because it's quite clearly going to show curvature, and they ain't having that.
Well,
Right,
I've got Brian
and-
Mabbott there, and I've said he'll be able to see the drop live, and I said I'd jump in the water if it wasn't there, and he'll be able to see there is their drop, and I don't know quite how he's going to respond when he does see it. And other people,
Well,
some of his crew are also are going to be there as well, and they will be seeing the drop, and they'll have to come up with some refraction issue or something to explain why this water is dropping away 17 feet over 8 kilometers.
And of
Yeah,
course,
they
they don't
You
kid
need
you.
to, yeah, you need to
Rumpus.
keep in mind what you said
Kevin-
earlier, Rumpus. You said that you're doing this for yourself.
Yeah.
When they inevitably discount the entire thing with a hand wave dismissal, you can't then turn around and just put more effort into it. What you've done is what you've done, and you've done it for you. You don't do it for them. You don't need to do more for them either. You
Yeah, I
just need
wouldn't
to
do it again.
cut
No, I
your
wouldn't
losses
reproduce
there
it.
if you want to call it a loss or not.
But it's been fascinating. I mean, meeting Farmers Boy has been great, and meeting other people like WS has been really helpful. And meeting just the people I've met actually there at the scene have been helping me, and dealing with people like Eric and other people have been really helpful. And the understanding refraction, the documentation, and it's been a really wonderful experience actually. And being demanding, it's mechanical. I learned, I've been doing a bit of woodwork and things, which has been great. And so actually, it's been a very productive and intellectually demanding. And George has been, providing me with when we're designing the thing. George has been giving me some good ideas, and so it's actually been a really useful, productive thing and constructive thing to do.
Well, you really and truly, though, you really and truly do have to take the attitude that I took with Cavendish, because if you don't, they're going to drag you around by the tail, and just exactly the way they tried to do me. It won't make any difference how much care you take or how many of their requests you respond to. They'll just add another one to it. The list will just continue to grow and grow and grow. So do it for you, not for them, and count on it. They will find some way to discount it, just like they discounted everything I did with Cavendish, regardless of how much care I took. There was still going to be some fucking idiot that would say, yeah, well, how do we know bananas attract buttermilk?
What did they claim with all that time you put in? What did they claim?
Oh, they've claimed everything. You've got the gamut from
or something.
Yeah, you got the gamut coming from Chemo, who claims it's invalid unless you do it in a vacuum. You've got others like Lemon Bird talking about electrostatics and things, despite the fact that I put the damn thing in a Faraday shield.
Yeah, and ether vortexes.
But you're really glad you've done it, aren't you, Blue? And we're really glad you've done it. You've educated us in some of these principles, and your paper on it is just fantastic. And now you've been able to go to the university, and they've got a little plaque next to you saying Blue did this, and you've got you met presumably all the university types, and then you've benefited from doing it in many ways. I'm sure it's a beautiful piece of kit.
Excuse my ignorance. Just to summarize really quick, did it prove that mass attracts mass? Was that the point?
Well, the point was to duplicate the measurements that Cavendish made all those years ago.
Well, you know what I'm asking though. Like, what can I bank on from it?
The answer is yes. That's what he's proved. It's pretty much a chance to prove anything. Blue demonstrated when he put people together that they attract one another.
Yeah, you do in the process end up showing that mass does in fact attract mass, but that was a given. That was not the purpose of what Cavendish did. Cavendish specifically did it to determine the density of the Earth in his day. that thing that we now call the universal gravitational constant wasn't being used then. Newton's expression basically said that force was proportional to the product of the masses divided by the square of the distance between their centers. It wasn't until 100 years later, and a guy named C.V. Boyce, that it became popular to include that constant of proportionality that we now know as big G. Okay. What I wanted to do was see how likely it was, and I've always wondered in my own mind, how did a guy take basically what amounts to some really big fishing weights and a pile of scrap wood and manage to measure something as difficult to measure as that universal gravitational constant? Could you make yourself believe that in 1798 a guy could do that? I always wondered, how the hell did he pull that off? And I wanted to see. And it turns out that, in fact, yes, you can. You can take a stack of firewood and some fishing weights, and you can measure the universal gravitational constant with it if you take enough care and you understand the process.
Yeah, you took some care. Look at, if you want to be impressed, go and look at Blue's paper, and it shows how much thinking he put into it before he did it.
It's over my head, admittedly, but what I want to tell you is I'm logically based. So to me, in my experiments, observations, blah, 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 I'm aware of things outside of my range. In other words, I'm not sure we've discovered all the forces. Yeah, I can't see ultraviolet, I can't see infrared, and I'm not sure that we read all the forces that exist.
Well, that's why science can't prove things. I mean, that's you're pointing out there the reason why we say science can't prove things, because you don't know, for instance, that invisible green fairies are not pushing these masses together, or there's something else going on. But the evidence so far is Popper's principle. If you want to falsify it, what Blue has demonstrated is that it's compatible with the principle of mass attracting mass. And we also Blue. I mean, I've talked about Blue's half here, but he can talk to himself. He's eliminated all the other forces that we're aware of that could be interfering with it. And other people have done it as well in vacuums and God knows what else, where they've eliminated all temperature issues, pressure issues, electrostatic issues, magnetic issues. They've eliminated all the forces that we're aware of in the world, though of course we've got things like dark energy and God knows what else that we don't quite fully understand, but they've eliminated all the other forces that we're aware of in the world, and then you still get this effect.
Right, so that's obvious to me why I suggest there's other forces.
Well, here's the thing. If there are other forces that you wish to propose could be causing this effect, the thing that is definitely confirmed by this experiment is that whatever you think those forces are, their presence only is around when masses are around. So masses, clearly, when they're put into place, cause other masses to accelerate towards them.
I disagree.
So that's the part that's being shown in the experiment.
I disagree. Just like Western medicine, you're talking about the symptom. The symptom would have been the attraction, not the thing. You're looking at the result of the effect. You're not looking at the thing.
Well, the result only came about when masses were put into place. And so therefore the masses are the masses being moved. And so therefore the masses being moved into place caused this thing to be measured.
I'm seeing it more like, let's say, a dammed stream. Let's say something got in the way of something and it began to dam up a small stream because of the energy behind it. I'm just not sure. I'm just speculating because I think at the result of Blue's work, it calls for new speculation. I'm not demanding anything but that.
Well, you can speculate if you want. You can try and invent some other thing that causes the effect. And Blue was eliminated, and so has people. There are a whole chain. I can't remember. I think it's at MIT or something. They've got a special laboratory just for measuring the value of G, and they have lots of little balls and things in gold-plated, God knows what, in a vacuum. And they do it more accurately. They've got the most accurate results for G, and they've tried to eliminate all the other forces they can possibly think of, and the only thing they're left with at the moment is that mass attracts mass. They've eliminated all the other things we know about. And we know that if you put this mass next to this other thing, and if you're eliminating electrostatics, magnetics, God knows what else, whatever you can do, we get this effect. And it also agrees with the planets orbiting us and GPS and all the satellites and things going around. So they all agree on the same thing so far. We've got a perfectly working story. We've not yet found an exception to the rules that we believe are true.
I would describe it a little simpler. Just Dan, you were talking about the difference between the cause and the effect, right? You see that the effect is there, and then you ask, well, what is the cause? Is that right, Dan?
That makes sense, and I'm purely out of speculation from a logical, not even a scientific point of view, because we're just dealing with process of elimination. I'm with Blue 100%. He eliminated all known forces.
And that's great. And the truth is, these high-end scientists, they're not really sure. They don't know exactly what is the fundamental thing that we'll eventually hope to discover that causes this effect. What we know is that when you put two masses next to each other, something makes them move towards each other.
Well, we have an explanation. The bending of space-time is the actual
Well,
underlying
we
cause of
can
that.
go a little deeper. We can talk about bending space-time, but then you're going to have to say, well, what causes that?
Yes, well,
And
yeah, but if you go
we're
down
going to
that
hit,
line,
and I
if
don't
you go
know.
fully regressive, then you ultimately come back to the start of the universe. If you keep on asking the question, why does that happen? So if I take the sun rises up, then you say, well, why does that happen? Then you say, well, because of gravity. We said, then why is gravity? And you say, because of bending space. You say, why does mass-based space-time? And ultimately, if you keep on going down that route, after about 5 or 6 whys, you end up with, well, we don't know. We don't even know what charges, for instance. If you say, why do positive and negative charges attract one another? Well, we don't actually know that. We just know the effect. So there was very, very easy to use a philosophical trick of using infinite regression or even 5 or 6 levels of regression, and then you always end up with no, we don't know. And that's, I don't think that's terribly clever.
Well, but I think that's sort of where Dan is maybe coming from, right? I want to know what causes that. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. And where I'm coming from is being banned by Bob Nodell, in particular, who wants me blacklisted for doing math, and his demands that he understands what he thinks is gravity. And
He's an idiot.
He's worse than that, He's worse.
Yes, he's worse than that. Yeah.
And it's sad because there is no real flat Earth community. So I'm only here because you guys are cordial, and I learned. I mean, I'll tell you a lot. I learned a lot when I poked around Jose's, because we flat Earthers sat in an echo chamber a lot. You guys came up with the word refraction. It took us a year to figure out what it meant. I mean, that it only took a year to sidestep us entirely till we figured out what it meant. But when we're done with your words, I look for actual experiments. So I really do appreciate Blue's work, because, the accusation that we're all just YouTube this and YouTube that is accurate, and it's sad, So thanks for trying to eliminate all things and for letting me just sort of check out different vibes on what science is, because there is a mainstream science that's all about funding and press releases, and people are trapped, compartmentalized, where they're stuck. They can't speak out, and they do have to do what they're told. And to be a real scientist in the real world, you often have to do what you're told by, the powers that be. So I feel sorry for anyone that really wants to explore their world and they're trapped by their employer. And that's an interesting part about the people like us that spend time online. We can afford to. Traditionally, in real life, we've been at war or striving in the fields or something. And this male anxiety that we get as men is funny, because we play it out online instead of skirmishing across our fence lines. It's funny.
I mean, science spends most of its time trying to eliminate confounding variables. So doing what Blue was doing and trying to eliminate what Cavendish did. I mean, he realised that things like temperature were causing him issues. It's eliminating all those other confounding variables and trying to get to the reductionist thing, saying this is the thing that's causing that. And of course, logically, it's you can use it in the case of modus tollens. You can say if you don't have mass, you don't get this effect. And therefore, because science can only use that process say it could all be happening, it could all be invisible green fairies doing all these cause and effects that we see around us. But all we can say is that, well, you need to have, at the moment, as far as we can tell in all the experiments we've ever done, you need to have mass to cause another mass to be accelerated. And then you try to eliminate all the other effects. And scientists spend most of their time trying to eliminate all the other rubbish that's confusing the situation, confusing the cause and effect relationship, and it's just trying to get to that pure relationship that is actually most of the work in many ways. I mean, I'm sure Blue, when he was doing his filtration stuff, he's explained to me some incredibly complicated science, and I've no doubt he was spending a lot of time being confused by data, confusing it, until eventually you get down to what it is that is causing the effect that you're looking at. And as someone is saying in the chat, remember, you start off by saying we've got this effect. You don't need to understand, for instance, that it's the bending of space-time. I mean, for instance, we're able to do experiments with gravity and things and understand what happens when you're throwing a cannonball or something. We know how it's going to perform in gravity. We don't need to understand what causes the gravitational attraction. We can actually just work with the effect that we're dealing with. And it's just interesting if you can then determine a theory like the general theory of relativity as to what actually causes gravity. And then you see actually then you realise there are some slight anomalies like the orbit of Mercury, when in fact it does, when you do fully understand what the hell's going on with gravity, you then realise there are some other subtle effects that you weren't aware of that that you can then explain by having a deeper understanding. But you can work with something like Newton's thing for 99.9% of the time.
Yeah, Fermilab did an interesting little video recently where he went through and took a look at the difference between Newton and general relativity and where those things depart.
Good. I'm on another
significantly. Call. And yeah, I found that very interesting to get a 1% difference between what Newton's equation would tell us and what general relativity says. You have to be moving at 12% of the speed of light.
Yeah. Oh, that was in the special relativity case.
Yeah, nothing that we know of, is moving that fast that we normally think about. That's an incredible, unthinkable speed.
That was the special relativity case. Of course, it had to go wrong in the general relativity case as well. Of course, when you're near a black hole or near the sun, for instance, we know that the gravitational, you get things like frame dragging and other gravitational weirdo things happening as a result of being close to massive bodies like the sun. So we know that Mercury is affected in some small way. In fact, actually, even the Earth's affected as well to some degree, but not as big as Mercury.
Well, all the planets are affected by it, but Mercury is the one that's affected the most because of its proximity.
Can we use the correct term here, please? It goes wibbly wobbly.
Yeah, well, that's what they thought. When they were looking at it in the 19th century, they were saying, well, hold on, what's this Mercury? It was incredibly small. I can't remember, is it it's one incredible 180th or something? I can't remember the perihelion was orbiting the sun. It's some incredible fraction of an error, but they spotted it. It's amazing the work they did in those times. And they said, what the hell? We can't explain this using Newton's physics, the fact that the perihelion of Mercury is rotating around the sun. So what the hell's going on? And so they're all scratching their head, and then along comes Einstein and then shows us from the bending of space-time, we can then explain it. And so again, you have this thing, you come up with something that explains as much as you can, you try and invalidate it, you can't invalidate it, so therefore you assume it to be true.
Well, it certainly would have been wonderful if I could have wandered in and out of the garage yelling, Eureka. I now know exactly what property of mass causes this apparent attraction. I wish I could have done that. I can't. Nobody can right now. One day, somebody's going to be able to say, and here is why it really happens. But what we know right now is, regardless of why, of what causes it, we do know one thing: those balls will not move if I don't put the masses close to each other.
It would have been great if you'd been born 200 years ago, Blue, and you'd done this experiment then. Imagine how excited you would have been then to get that result.
You understand the why. You're not overly concerned with the what.
How is someone going to tell us this is what really happened?
It's gravitons, mate. I know the answer, but everyone else will reject. Everyone else will reject this.
Right. That's what they do with the electrodynamics. But this is what really happens. We don't know. It's a model.
Right, and the more refined explanations we get, like when we had just Newtonian mechanics, and then there was this additional thing of space-time, that explanation didn't invalidate the original premise, which is that you have masses and you have other masses, and they do accelerate toward one another. Refining it doesn't change that basic truth in that there is an effect that you see these masses being accelerated towards other masses, regardless of how refined the explanation gets.
That's absolutely super important. Yes, everything you develop from this point onwards can't invalidate the Newton. So, for instance, you can derive Newton's equations from Einstein's space-time equation, field equations, in the cases where you've got low gravitational effects, like on the Earth. You can actually, so you end up with Newton's equations. So whatever you do, because we've never invalidated Newton in the case of being on the Earth, whatever invention you come up with theory, it has to be compatible with that. It has to be a development of that. And of course, Einstein's thing was.
It's in his damn field equation. That little G symbol. Thanks, Newton.
The big G.
I don't mean as in little G. I'm just saying because that equation has actually, I think it's 8 actual equations within that equation.
It's 10 actually, but yeah, you're close.
16 actually, but 6 of them are duplicates.
Oh, we could keep doubling it if you like. We could say 32.
I get a
No,
point
it's
with
not.
that,
It's
by
a
the
4
way.
by 4. It's 16, but 6 of them are duplicates.
Yeah.
Somebody needs
Are we
to
talking about
explain
wood?
to me why a tensor equation is not an equation, but is in fact 10 equations. It's a tensor equation. It's a vector equation, right?
Yeah.
All vector equations can be expressed as multiple linear equations.
Yep.
Why do people say that?
Well, it's 10 linear equations. I mean, it's
Yeah,
okay.
it can be expanded into 10 equations, but it is in a single equation by itself, isn't it?
Yeah, you're right.
Yes.
I mean, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
It's
not
a
knowing,
field equation.
not knowing what it meant, I looked it up and I got to read it out loud because this is why science kills me. It's buried in language. It says here, tensor. In mathematics, a tensor is an algebraic object that describes a multilinear relationship between sets of algebraic objects related to a vector space. And to tell you the truth, it's kind of yakety yak to me.
Well, but Dan, it's a very complicated thing. To understand what that is, you need to do a degree in physics or maths. And
Yeah,
I'm afraid that's just too bad. I'm sorry, but life is complicated. Reality is complicated, and if you want to understand, you can't reject it because you don't understand it.
Describe to me a multilinear relationship that I recognize.
That's
Hawkins that just did.
Multilinear relationship.
Tetherball.
Right.
Okay, good one. So.
Yeah, but like Constance has just said, it's 10. I mean, the reason they call it 10 equations is because you end up with 10 sort of conventional equations with an equal sign and, bits on either side of it that you can look at. I think that's why they say there's 10 equations, or 16 as Blue said, in which 6 are duplicates. But I think that's a valid thing to say. So there are 10 separate linear equations you can create for it, which has the usual sort of form of an equation, whereas the tensor one is a bit fiddly to work with.
The difference between a tensor and a tensor equation, I guess it says a tensor equation is an equation that maintains the same form no matter which coordinate system you use.
Yeah, I mean, Dan, you're basically saying you don't understand it. I'm afraid that's no basis for saying it's not valid.
I did not invalidate it.
I know you didn't, but you seem to be saying that.
Put it out there for another idiot like me that might want to know the language behind what you're talking about.
Yeah, but it's difficult language. I mean, you're going to have to study for several years to understand this stuff.
Words.
Right, and more importantly, when it's properly applied, when the equations are used, and you can see the results come out of it, they give you the predictive power necessary to show you what things in reality happen that it can predict. When it's properly applied, it does what it does. It does
testable.
Match reality just fine.
Yeah, it's testable. You can falsify. If those things were bollocks, the test that we can do, like the orbit of Mercury, would show that it's bollocks. But it doesn't. The equations are compatible with reality. All the tests we do in reality, all the tests of general relativity, have shown that general relativity is correct. There are various other tests, things like the way that time changes, for instance, in terms of distance from masses. There are other things like frame dragging. There are gravitational lensing. All the things that you can do to test those equations work. So the fact they might be complicated and a bit incomprehensible to someone who hasn't done a physics degree, I'm sorry, it's just too bad. Reality is complicated. Those equations work, and they are testable, and they have been shown to be correct.
Yeah, let me say goodbye to I Can Science that. He had to run. So thanks for joining, man. And welcome back anytime you like.
He's obviously a tensor expert or something, because if he thinks everything should be worked with you should use the raw tensor stuff. I think Blue, you've vaguely touched on tensors in the past, haven't you? And I've vaguely touched on them, but as you said, they're not something you want to deal with unless you.
Well,
really...
for those listening, if you've never seen just one of those 10 linear equations fully expanded, it's an entire page of paper. It is extremely complicated. You take a look at that and you see quickly why nobody wants to mess around with it when Newton works so well as long as you stay in that weak field limit.
Yeah, that's why NASA doesn't mess around using bloody general relativity and stuff. They use the Newton stuff.
No.
And it works.
Yeah, of course it does.
Even
except when they're trying to communicate. Yeah, except when they're trying to communicate with Mars when it's on the other side of the sun.
You mean with the electromagnetic stuff? You mean?
Yeah, they have to weigh in the space-time gravitational field of the radio wave going around all through the sun.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Blue, I saw something yesterday. Sorry, continue.
No, you go ahead.
They said that there's this probe that they're using the word touch the sun. And it doesn't. It went within some coronal band 100 million miles away from the sun. But the press release touched the sun.
No, it wasn't 100 million miles. That's where the Earth is. It was a few thousand miles. I can't remember.
Well, it was the numbers in question that make me nuts, because I'm like, all right, what's this Parker probe? What the fuck's going on? What's up with the temperatures out there? And it was really quick. 4 materials they used that were high temp, up to about 66,000 degrees Fahrenheit, maybe 6,500. But yet they entered a zone that was clearly ranging around 10,000 degrees. And then if you kept reading, there was just ridiculous claims of the amounts of temperatures that were on the sun or near the sun, and it was so varied that I can't get a straight answer. So
I love temperature.
Interesting to look into is what is the straight answer? What materials? Where were they? What are they?
What's the question? Hold on. What's your question? What's the question?
Why are they using the word touched when it's not? Why are they selling it as such? And what are they selling me? That's my question.
So
they were directly receiving material, and that material is from the sun. So when they say touched the sun, it's just that they got material directly from where it came from the sun.
Yeah. Right, so a coronal mass ejection fired, and it actually grabbed particles from that ejection.
So if you spit on me, did you touch me? Well, legally it's an assault, so maybe, right? So it's a technicality, but nothing touched. And to see the headlines over and over again say touch, it got my interest. So I'm looking at the temperatures on the surface because I looked it up, looking at the temperatures in the dark spots, they're much lower. And I'm looking at the temperatures of where they say they touched. And yes, they're in orbit and they're coming around and there's differences, but trust me, the numbers don't.
Yeah, but the fact that you got the number completely wrong just now when you said it was 100 million.
I got
you did. You said it was 100 million miles,
listen,
and it absolutely is not.
I'm explaining to you the inconsistencies when I read, and the 100,000 and 100 million mistake I might have made is a mistake. You should allow me for real purpose.
Yeah. Okay, if it's just
You're talking about it. You're talking about what the headline of the article said.
Yeah, and I'm talking about versus the real temps in real life. So what are the real?
You're talking about
the materials. I looked up the materials. I looked up the temps. We'll all agree it's molybdenum, it's tungsten, it's a sapphire, and one other thing I couldn't pronounce.
This is my field of speciality.
Right. The thing about temperatures is, when you're talking about the melting point of a material and the temperature of any given area, you also have to acknowledge that for a given volume the particles in it are at a temperature, the thermal energy could be something totally different than what you're expecting, because those two are not the same. You're not looking at temperature and the amount of thermal energy present in a volume. They are not the same concept.
Yeah, and that
Yeah,
very
but
principle that Doof, hold on, the principle Doof has just described is one I was going to bring on to. There's 2,000 degrees C in the upper parts of the atmosphere. The atmosphere, the thermosphere, I can't remember, I think it's the thermosphere, that's at 2,000 degrees C, which sounds as though if you would then go up there yourself, you would melt in that temperature. Oh, no, you don't. Because it's the individual molecules that are running around at that temperature, but there's so few of them. And similarly, those coronal mass ejections, the density, as Doofus was saying, the actual thermal capacity in that is not, the temperature might be, but if you, for instance, if you get a spark, the sparks you get off something that hits you, you don't notice that. That's several thousand degrees C. You don't notice it because of the thermal capacity of it is so small. Similarly with these thermal mass ejections, there's not actually that much mass there. So even if it was a very high temperature, it's not going to melt something. It's got a melting in an environment. If you say put it in an oven in the environment we have at say 1,000 degrees C, that doesn't mean to say if you were to blow some sparks on it that are 2,000 degrees C that it's going to start to melt. The thermal capacity, it's the thermal energy that's transmitted to the device that's important.
And here's a little something I wanted to touch on. Tungsten, one of the greatest inventions in the world to be used for welding. A 3.2 millimeter tungsten rod can heat stuff up to over 10,000 degrees centigrade and not melt. The rod itself will not melt.
Well, tungsten is an element that has one of the highest melting points of anything.
Yeah.
And it's up around 3,500 degrees centigrade to melt it.
Yeah, so it's the thermal capacity, as Duke said, that gets injected into something is what causes it to melt. Just like a spark doesn't make your skin melt, but if you had loads of sparks, if you had a great mass of sparks that come and landed on you, then you would melt. It's the difference in the amount of energy being delivered to you.
They weren't above the area. They entered the area of 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah, but you can do the same
materials with materials at a melting point of 6,500.
Yeah. Listen to what I just said. If you went up into the Earth's atmosphere at 2,000 degrees C, are you expecting, say, lead to melt up there, or you to melt if I put you up there? The answer you should give to me is no, because the energy density of that 2,000 degrees C is not sufficient to deliver the thermal energy to you to get you to melt. So it's not just the temperature that matters. As Doofus said, it's the thermal energy, and there's the density up there. So you need to be. If you went up to 2,000 degrees C and you were surrounded by liquid metal at 2,000 degrees C, yes, you would melt and burn. But if you go up in the atmosphere at 2,000 degrees C, because the atmosphere is so not very dense, you're just being hit by a few very energetic atoms, and similarly near the sun, it's not very dense. Although the stuff in the atoms are very hot, there aren't that many of them.
So I don't feel the sun outdoors. I must feel the sun hitting our atmosphere.
No, because there's radiation here.
Yeah. I grew up thinking I could feel the sun and that plants felt the sun, but obviously that it's some sort of atmospheric thing. Because
no, it is.
Radiation. You're feeling the infrared radiation.
Yes.
That's the heat that you feel.
But you can't feel that in space because
Yes, you can.
This was about particles before.
Use reflective material, man.
No. So the same reason why you're saying it's too thin in space.
No. Right.
You're saying suddenly it thickens up and
hold
it
on.
warms up.
There are two things. There are two things going on here. The atoms are moving around at 2,000 degrees C, but the radiation is at whatever it's about 200 degrees C or something, I think, at that height. So
I'd likely freeze in space. I'd likely freeze in space, even though the sun's out.
Well, no, it depends on the ISS, for instance. One side of the ISS, I think, is at 200 degrees C, and the stuff in the shadow, if they didn't cool it or didn't circulate thing, would be minus 100 degrees C.
You believe that? You really believe that?
Yes, you do. That's what. If you look at the engineer, yes, you do. That's what the engineers have to do. They've measured this. We've got data from NASA that shows this. If you want to deny science and reality and the data we're getting, and because you think it's some sort of conspiracy thing, obviously you can believe that. But you're denying reality and you're denying science.
The thing is, Dan, there's other mechanisms of heat transfer. You've got conduction, convection, radiation, and the relative amounts of those will. I mean, if you have more radiation than you have conduction, you'll get cooler.
It's just when I looked up what's up with the surface temps, what's up with the dark spots, what's up with this area they were at, I got a lot of random numbers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
but
and you
the
can have
other
some
thing
answers
is
as
that's
to
not being
why.
talked about
Dan,
here, the concept of thermal mass. What
I
that's
just,
what Rumpus is alluding to, like density. There's a thing called thermal mass.
it's just
It's
Blue.
like
I
sticking
started
your
like
hand and hey, turn your oven up to 400 degrees, let it heat up, open up the door, stick your hand in. You're not going to get burnt. Not right away. Because
fairly
the air doesn't
quickly
have
with
much
it.
thermal mass.
So this is like, this isn't really the argument. The argument is really what is up. What is the temperature? Did they touch? No, they didn't touch. Was
Yes,
touch
they did.
explained? Was touch
Dan,
explained to me? Yes, it was. Adequately? Yes, it was.
I
So,
think
go.
Dan, I think Professor Phil in the chat said it very well. He said reporters interpret what scientists say and try to create headlines that cause lay people to be interested in reading the paper.
Yeah.
And that really is the bottom line to it. They got your attention, right? This thing touched the sun. They want you to read the paper. And I think if you
Right,
read
because
through the
I think
paper in detail, you find out that touching the sun might be a little bit of a stretch. You call it clickbait if you want. But that's
Right.
what
So,
people
but
do that write these
that's
damn
how
articles.
that's how I know I'm being sold bullshit.
Well, you
Because
don't
there's too
understand the
much good
issues.
stuff. There's too much good data.
Well,
Well, if you
Like, did you see the thing about how they've asked the astronauts not to masturbate in space anymore? What are they talking about? What kind of garbage is that? How could anyone be printing that and think that that's material? So I understand garbage material.
Well, you don't understand the issues. You didn't understand that 2,000 degrees C of the atmosphere will not cause you to be burnt, and you get confused between that and radiation. You don't understand the basic scientific principles on which you're commenting, and neither do the
You've
people
reduced
writing
me to
it.
rubble.
and
You've reduced me to rubble.
And neither do the people writing those news articles. They don't understand the science either. And what you're saying is you're criticizing newspaper articles written by people who have no understanding of
sir.
science, basically.
No, sir.
And then what?
I'm
But if
asking-
you want to
Rumpus,
understand it,
Rumpus,
then you
Rumpus.
want to read a book about it. And you want to
Rumpus.
do some research.
I'm absolutely challenging you to show me in these variations of news sources where the reality is for my
Who cares about the
reference
news
point.
sources?
Here's what, because scientifically, Blue and I are on the same page. It's tungsten, it's sapphire, it's molybdenum. I understand the materials, I understand temperatures.
No,
Now
you
we're
don't.
going to talk about action and reaction.
No, you don't understand temperature. You don't understand that if you go into the atmosphere at 2,000 degrees C, you will not burn up. You don't understand the reason for that. And you
And
didn't
you don't-
understand
and you don't think
you
that the-
did not understand the difference
and you
between the
don't think that the
radiation from the
presence
sun
is
and the
rumpusing.
temperature of the molecules through conduction.
this
You
is what
do
they
not
call
understand the principles of heat transfer.
No, and I'm clearly rumpused at this point. That's not the
Well, you
point.
don't understand. You've
glad
demonstrated you
you
don't
finally
understand.
got going.
Everybody else from the panel understands the difference between conduction and radiation, and you didn't.
Oh, and so you're totally aware of the different pressures at that coronal point, 100,000 miles from the sun. So I think it's 200,000 miles from the sun. So they didn't touch at about 200,000 miles. Do you know how much it was? I know you've already scolded me for
What?
making
What?
this mistake.
Who got there?
You know,
100 miles from the sun? who got there?
The sun is a boiling plasma ball. Bits of it shoot up. So if a bit of it that shoots up it goes 100,000 miles away from it, and that makes contact with the probe, you've effectively touched the sun.
That's not what they say in their diagram.
It is exactly what they're saying.
They're talking about.
You've misunderstood it if you think otherwise.
Okay, well, certainly the orbit isn't circular; it's elliptical or whatever.
So what? What's that got to do with the price of fish?
Well, the temperatures may change. You're going to require
Yes, they
me.
will.
You're going to
The
require.
solar park orbit is elliptical for that very purpose, to avoid being exposed.
So
what?
So let's say there's an average temperature. What temperature do you think this material is at? And I'm going to
as I explained to you, if you're at 2,000
it's impossible
degrees,
for temperature whatsoever. Is what you're going to.
If you're at 2,000 degrees C in the area in the atmosphere, you will not melt. It's the thermal energy that gets to you that's important.
So
and
it's
if
zero.
Even if it's
no temperature, it's cold. You can tell me it's cold.
No, I didn't say it was cold. If you
Well,
want to know, you
go
see,
ahead,
you don't
Lloyd.
understand the issues, do you? You interrupt me before I can explain it, and you still
I
haven't
just
understood.
don't want to be rumpus
and you
right.
still,
I'd rather
well, you
Blue
still
explain
don't
it.
understand.
I'd
that
rather Blue explain
you
it than
still
rumpus.
don't understand that in the
I'd
atmosphere,
rather
2,000
Blue
degrees
explain
C,
it then be
You
wrong.
don't understand that in the atmosphere at 2,000 degrees C, you will not melt. Whereas the logic that you're applying, the explanation you gave earlier, would suggest that you would melt. And therefore, you don't understand the issue of heat transfer that Doofus was describing. And because you don't understand that, you then get all excited about the temperature of the sun, the temperature of these coronal masses, and thinking they will melt it. No, they won't. The temperature is not enough.
Reduced to rubble. Now, Blue, can you explain it to me? I'm in a pile of rubble. I'm in a pile of rubble.
Let me
clambering up the sides of my hole, trying to hear it from you.
All right. Let me take a crack at it. Space doesn't have any temperature. How about that? It has no temperature.
Whoa!
There's no material there. If we're just talking about a pure vacuum, there's no temperature, nothing. There's no mass there. You can't have any temperature.
My friend, you might actually be my friend, because that was a great thing to say. That was cool.
Yeah, but now you can put a handful of molecules per cubic fortnight up there, and those molecules can be many thousands of degrees themselves, but there's so few of them. There's no as these guys are saying.
So it's just basically nothing.
There is no thermal mass, right? So when you don't have any thermal mass, you don't have any ability. There's no mechanism for very much heat transfer.
Because space is nothing.
Yeah, there's no temperature in the void part of space. That empty part doesn't have it.
There is the cosmic microwave. There is the radiation temperature from the cosmic microwave. So if you went into deep space, away from stars and things, you'd have a 3-degree background
absolute
temperature.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but it's next to nothing. Yeah, so it's next to nothing, but it's not
essentially nothing.
It just doesn't have It doesn't have the properties because of its nature of being empty space, right?
Right.
Explain to me, gentlemen.
I think again, Phil.
How are we going to bend something that doesn't have properties? You want me to bend space? So how am I going to? Where did you get the properties for it to be manipulated when you won't allow me to do it with temperature?
Dimensions.
You won't allow it to do me with temperatures. So how are you manipulating?
Space has dimensions. It does have properties. It also has one hydrogen molecule per cubic meter. It also has lots of neutrinos going through it. It has lots of stuff going on.
And none of those carry enough properties to transfer heat?
Yeah, radiation does. Yes, if you're out in deep space, away from all the stars, you will have incumbent on you a 3-degree radiation. You will not go down to absolute zero. You will be heated up. If you start off with absolute zero, you'll be heated up to 3 degrees K by radiation.
Well,
that's obviously pretty nippy.
The heat transfer you're most used to, Dan, is what we call conduction. That's where you have collisions of molecules, and temperature is the average kinetic energy, statistical kinetic average of a great number of molecules. That's why heat pumps can take advantage of this. You have a glass of water. There's some molecules, say at 70 degrees Fahrenheit. The statistical average is centered around 7 degrees Fahrenheit, but there's some molecules in there at 120 degrees Fahrenheit, 150 degrees Fahrenheit, at 40 degrees Fahrenheit. And the heat pumps sort out and take out the 140 degree Fahrenheit molecules and extracts the energy out of that and puts it back in at a cooler temperature.
Yeah, that's how we can have. That's how we can extract heat from 40-degree air outside, and bring it inside and put it back out at 70 degrees Fahrenheit. It's exactly how a heat pump works, as George is saying.
I mean, Dan, do you know the 3 different ways that you get heat from the environment around you? Are you aware of the 3 different types?
Hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil.
So that's it. So you're just trying to cover up the fact you don't know. So you're ignorant of that fact. So if you were more than about 12, you would know the answer is convection, conduction, and radiation. So those are the 3 ways that heat can get into your system, and you need to understand those 3 different ways. And a solar mass ejection, that is matter which is going to potentially interact with you, rather, as George was saying, molecules bashing into you. The radiation part, so much you didn't seem to understand before because you seem to think you couldn't, you have to go through the atmosphere. No, you don't. There's radiation as well. So you need to understand the three different ways. But in the space, in deep space, you don't have conduction unless you go near the sun where you have a coronal mass ejection and it hits you, or if you're in the upper atmosphere, there's still sufficient numbers of molecules in the upper atmosphere at 2,000 degrees C that will hit you.
They entered the corona. That was my whole point. They entered the corona.
Yes, they did. I don't know why you're having a problem with this. They touched it. So they touched a bit of the sun. It came from the sun. It was poking out 100,000 miles, and they touched it. So they touched the sun, in effect. It's mass from the sun. It came from the sun, 100,000 miles, but it's on a long... it's like a squid. An octopus. If you get hold of a tentacle of an octopus, it's sticking out, and you touch that, and you touch the octopus. And it's you can find, because of boiling plasma, it's not a solid object, and so bits of it coming off, well, that's a bit that was in the sun, and therefore you can argue that's you've touched the sun. In other words, if you didn't accept that was touching the sun, where do you accept it? Because the sun gets more and more dense as you get closer and closer to it. It doesn't have a solid body where you're inside the sun and outside the sun. No, it's a gradual process where it gets denser and denser and denser. So where would you like to decide touching the sun exists?
The truth is that getting close is what they were trying to portray. It was glamorized. It wasn't touched. Don't be a dick about it. Don't be ridiculous.
No, you're being a dick about it. They did touch a part of the sun.
You went backwards.
You don't understand it.
On the definition of the word touch?
Yeah, do you want to define? Yeah, tell me.
How's this? Don't touch me. Your argument doesn't touch me. How's that?
That's because you're a moron.
Right.
You don't understand.
All
If you
right
want you want to define when you're touching the sun. There's a gradual increase in density. Where would you like to decide? And in fact, parts of the sun through the solar wind actually get to us. So would you like to say that we're touching the sun in the earth? You could argue that. So you've got to decide what density of part of the sun is part of the sun. Now, they've decided the coronal mass ejection, which is considerably greater than the solar wind, is part of the sun. But you could, if you decided you didn't like that definition, then you've got to decide how many molecules or how many atoms per unit cubic meter you're going to decide is part of the sun. You've got to then come up with a number.
I think Professor Phil had a good way of relating this. He said this, Dan, if you, stick your hand under the hot water tap at 120 degrees, and it's going to feel hot. It's going to feel damned hot really quickly. You're going to want to get your hand out of that as fast as possible. Now, walk over to the oven and stick your hand in it with it set at 120 degrees and see how it feels. You'll say, oh, that's just barely warm.
You could also make a case that we never touch anything because it's actually due to electrostatic repulsion that one atom of ours never actually touches the atom of another. It's actually repelled by electrostatic forces, and that the impact on you. So when a molecule, we say, hits you, what it does is the shells, the electron shells around it, affect the electron shells of a nearby atom without actually going and touching it. There's coming in physical contact. The field, the electric field that comes off the other one changes the behavior of the other atom and then causes it to move and therefore gets hot. So one rapidly moving atom, its electric field from the electrons and affect the next electric atom, the electric field of that, and then cause it to move. So we never actually touch anything, in fact, in many ways you could argue. But
I
that's completely above your head.
As a welder, I disagree with that analogy there, Mr. Rumpus. I get burnt a lot by flying sparks, mate.
Oh yeah, you get burnt, but that doesn't mean to say you've touched it. What's happened is that those
when they're
flying
embedded
sparks...
in my skin, they've touched me.
It's not embedded in your
you
skin.
Want to put money on that, mate?
Yeah, it's not embedded in your skin.
Melt into my skin.
It's not in your skin. It's actually separate. No atom actually touches another atom.
Well, I've had to pull it out with tweezers, mate. That's interaction.
It's interaction, yes. No one's disputing interaction, but it's you can.
Wait, hang on. You're saying a piece of steel embedded in my skin is not touching me?
Correct. But you can make a very good case for that being not touching. Yeah.
Actually, you can't.
You can.
You're
at the
pushing
microscopic level, one of those atoms is not touching. Even the electrons in one atom are not actually in physical contact with the electrons in another atom.
What happens when I pull it out and there's blood on it? Did it take a bit of me with it?
It's the interaction is there. I agree with you. There's a lot of interaction there, but nonetheless, you can make a case that there's no actual physical contact between the electrons in the piece of steel that's embedded in you, as you put it.
So what you're saying is, if I've ever had sex with someone, I've never physically actually touched them.
You could make a case for that, yes, in court. Yeah.
No, you could not.
You are a fucking lunatic, Rumpus. Go back.
You don't understand,
to the
Dan.
world.
You just demonstrated
Go
again.
back
You
to
don't know
the
physics. You
world.
didn't know the three different ways of heat
imperfect.
transfer.
I'm
and you're
imperfect.
demonstrated again. You don't
I'm
understand entire
imperfect.
physics.
I'm
Yeah,
here
you are.
seeking knowledge. I'm here seeking
Yes, you are.
knowledge.
You are. Yeah, I'm afraid you're not. You're ignorant of basic physics and science. I'm afraid.
Does it make you feel better though?
Yeah, a little bit.
Good.
Guys, I'm going to have to, unfortunately, in the YouTube stream, I've put a link to the Discord in the chat. I think we probably still got some moderators in here. So if anybody wants to join Discord, feel free. You can join in the conversation with these guys, and you guys are all perfectly welcome to hang around as long as you want to, but I'm going to have to get out of here. I want to thank everybody for coming, everybody for showing up and being on the panel. I appreciate it. It's been a lively discussion. And anybody got anything before I end the stream here?
Oh, I just got here, mate.
Oh,
I'm glad.
Bev's a twat.
Yeah, Bev's a twat is the main main message, I think.
I'm glad to be punching bag for a while if you need it, because he's a waste of time.
Well, thanks, Shaky, Dan, Davros, J Mac, George, Snesley Wipes, Rumpus. Where's Wally? He's been very quiet. Waz just showed up. So,
hey, Wally.
You guys have a great evening, and we'll catch you on the next one. And there we go.